weaving, embroidery, and renowned copper matter dye pits, where indigo dyeing has been practiced for centuries. These traditions, rooted in Hausa culture, reflect the identity, history, and creativity of the people. Beneath the open sky, generations of artisans work over earthen pits filled with deep indigo dye, preserving a legacy that has endured for over 500 years. At the heart of the story, the dye pits stand as a living museum of culture, craftsmanship, and resilience, when fabric, identity, and tradition intertwine. The origins of the dye pit date back to the 15th century, when Kano rose as a major hub in trans-Saharan trade. Over time, they became central to the city's textile industry, producing indigo fabrics traded across West Africa and beyond.
The first portion is right down there from afar. It was donated to the elementary school boards, which is the present Gidan Makama Primary School today. And the second portion, you can see it right there from the outside, being constructed into modern building. It was donated to the same Makama Home of Nobility, while this particular third phase was donated to the National Department of Antiquities until 1979, when it became the National Commissions for Museums and Monuments. But it became a fully and active museum in 1985. So you're welcome once again.
So what is the socio-economic impact of this place to Kano economy and Nigeria generally?
Okay. This is a national museum. It has a major economic, socio-cultural impact upon not just the people of Kano, but the entire Northwest. Because as you can see, Gidan Makama itself serves as a symbol of the Northwestern people. Gidan Makama is a national monument which attracts various people from various parts of the world.
For centuries, the dyeing process has remained largely unchanged. Indigo leaves are fermented, mixed with ash and water, and carefully prepared to produce the deep blue color that defines Kano traditional clothes. These skills have been passed down through generations, preserving techniques that predate modern industry. Historically, the dye pits were a cornerstone of Kano's economy. Their textile were prized, won by royalty, and exported across the Sahel into the Middle East, strengthening Kano's reputation as a center of commerce and crafts. Today, their importance extends beyond Kano, forming a key part of Nigeria's textile heritage. They represent indigenous knowledge and sustainable production methods, increasingly relevant in global shift toward eco-friendly fashion. For local communities, the dye pits have long provided livelihoods. Families depend on the trade, with rows spanning dyeing, weaving, tying, and trading, creating a value chain that sustains artisans and local markets.
I think that there's an opportunity here. I imagine if this is done large scale, that would be a lot of money to any business owner. So I definitely think that this is a great place to be at, to learn, especially if you are an entrepreneur in the business and fashion industry.
This place can bring in a lot of people that are looking for employment. It can give them something to do. With more hands, this place is going to do a lot of amazing things, and I've seen a lot of beautiful things, crafts, creativity, and what they are doing here is really amazing.
Despite this, the industry faces serious challenges. Chief among them is competition from cheap imported textiles, which have reduced demand for locally made fabrics.
All those fabric is an indigenous material, cotton from Nigeria, dye from Nigeria, and design local Nigeria. So now we are calling people to come to patronize. Our economy is going to be circulated. If you buy Chinese product, you can help Chinese economy. If you buy Nigerian product, you can help Nigerian economy.
Another issue is limited modernization, while culturally significant traditional method make it difficult to compete with faster industrial production. A widening generational gap also threatens the craft as younger people move toward more profitable and less demanding jobs. Environmental and infrastructural problems add to the strain. Many dye pits are now in disrepair, with some abandoned due to years of neglect and limited investment. Government support could help revive the sector through funding, improved equipment, and training programs that boost productivity while preserving tradition.
We do not have an industry in Nigeria. It's unfortunate. We do not have an industry in the entertainment sector. We cannot pin down. There's no database for artists, for entertainers, for museums, for even broadcast journalists that are interested in the area of tourism or entertainment. We do not. I don't think we have that. So those are the things that we should use to propel us to start to look inwards to all these things at advantage.
You have visited various cultural sites, historical sites in Kano, and wherever you get to place on your feet, you get to see an element of what Kano state government is doing in order to preserve that particular place. Even if you look at this National Museum itself today, it belongs to the federal government. But Kano state government came in and it's carrying out a heavy conservation program.
Promoting the dye pit as a cultural tourism destination is another key opportunity. With better infrastructure and global visibility, the site could attract visitors and generate revenue. Policies that encourage the use of locally made fabrics through official patronage and national campaigns can also increase demand and restore relevance. Partnerships with fashion designers and access to global markets would further expand opportunities, blending traditional techniques with modern design. Ultimately, the Kano dye pits remain a story of resilience and potentials. With the right support, these ancient crafts can continue to thrive and shape Nigeria's cultural and economic future.
Though the Umuahia Fishing Festival and the Kofaramata Dye Pit are different stories from different places. Both reveal how culture survives through the hands of everyday people. One thrives on water and harvest, the other on earth, ash and indigo. Together, they show the depth of Nigerian's traditions. From the splash of net in Taraba to the deep blue of dyed clothes in Kano, these stories remind us that our heritage is not locked in the past. It lives, it breathes, and it works with us every day. When we gather at the lake or dip clothes into indigo, we are touching the same spirit our ancestors held there. In honoring these traditions, we keep the soul of Africa strong and bright for the generations yet to come. And so, whether it is a drum beat by the water or the quiet drip of dye from clothes to pit, every sound and every color tells us who we are. Let us protect these voices, nurture these crafts, and carry them forward with pride. African's beauty is in its people, and its future is in the stories we choose to keep alive. That's our package for you this week. I hope you enjoyed every bit of the program. Until I come your way again next week, please embrace Africa, live Africa, and promote Africa. I am Iwafreho Dokbesi Udumo. Bye and see you next week.
I hope you have a good week. My name is Andrew Madaki. For sports, I remain Monday Thomas.
I'm Tonda Kimelu, and you're now on the Entrepreneur Spotlight on the Weekend Show. Nice to be here. You are now watching social media trends on the Weekend Show.
My name is Emeka Uzurumba.
You should be watching The Weekend Show. I hope you.
Good morning, Nigerians. You are now tuned in to The Weekend Show. My name is Aisha B. It's currently 8 a.m. in the Federal Capital Territory, and we bring to you great and exciting news. Trending from social media trends to lifestyle, politics, entertainment, and so much more. Entrepreneur spotlights, poetic interlude, and of course, business updates by Tender Chimelu. As you know, The Weekend Show is brought to you by TOS TV Networks, the Chief African Storyteller, in collaboration with AIT. This morning, we're going to be discussing the high cost of living in Nigeria and how Nigerians have been experiencing high cost from real estate, housings, electricity, food items, and many more happening here in our country. On politics, we're going to be looking at currently the state of the nation and where exactly we stand before the 2027 elections hit off on the roads. As you know, Osun elections are happening today, and Davido has been making trends on social media. As you know, that's one of my favorite segments, is the entertainment, for obvious reasons. We'll be speaking with a guest and a rising star in Nigeria currently. When you look at Entrepreneur Spotlight, we're speaking with individuals who have made waves in Nigeria when it comes to entrepreneurship, their business, and how they've carried on the light for so many years. Stay tuned with us. Grab your breakfast, whether it's coffee, pancakes, or bread. Join us this morning on The Weekend Show. I remain Aisha B. Stay seated. More coming up.
For nearly 3 decades, he trusted us with the story of our nation and beyond. Now, our political program gets a powerful upgrade. Welcome to the all-new Democracy Today Extra. We're shifting the gears of political broadcasting. No scripts, no spin, just the uncompromising truth.
Is there true democracy in political parties in Nigeria?
Adiza, why are we so obsessed with whether governors will use police against their opponents or even the president? Why?
Get ready. In-depth, no-holds-barred interviews.
Reserve seats, when it eventually comes to stay, is not the destination.
How do we safeguard the will of the people?
If a governor wants to intimidate you with the current police that we have, they will intimidate you. They don't need state police to intimidate anybody.
Fearless analysis, unfiltered facts.
Legislature is the forum upon which democracy will work.
We're bringing the ultimate searchlight on political actors, holding power accountable every single weekend. 10 p.m. Nigerian time on Saturdays and Sundays. Bold, analytical, uncompromising. Democracy Today Extra.
Very good morning to the viewers all across the world. Welcome to your Poetic Interlude on The Weekend Show. My name is Emeka Ozurumba, and I bring you poetic tidings. And of course, writing is an art and a science, and it helps us inculcate with ourselves and also expose what we have to give to the world. Writers have been writing from when they've been very little to when they've actually achieved a lot in terms of Herculean achievements. And today I have with me no less than a very young writer who is just fanning her embers and budding her leaves while young. I'm with Ajay Sharon Nsendo. Good morning, Nsendo.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, she's a London writer who's written 2 books and is about to write more, and she's going to be reading from her book, Meet My Twin. Okay, you can read from your book, Sharon.
Chapter 4. The Mystery of the Twin. Natasha's heart skipped a beat as she slid into the cafeteria seat across from Tina. The air smelled of stale pizza and burnt coffee. The scent tangled with the low hum of gossip and the clatter of spoon against chip plates. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, making everything feel too bright and too exposed. "I've been thinking," Tina said, voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes glittered, not in mischief this time, but with something sharper. "Maybe our twin sisters aren't a coincidence. Maybe that's why we feel this pull towards each other." Natasha's mind raced. Natalia and Gina, separated at birth, both sick and both locked away in a hospital she wasn't allowed to visit. She'd call it fate by now, but Tina was calling it design. "What do you mean?" Natasha whispered. The cafeteria noise swallowed her words, but not the dread curling in her stomach. Tina leaned forward, elbows on the table. What if they are meant to find each other? And what if I'm meant to help them? She paused, then dropped her voice further. What if someone doesn't want that to happen? Natasha thought of the way Josephine always changed the subject whenever a discussion about hospital comes up. The thought of reunion hit her like a physical blow. They talked until the bell rang. Natasha told her about her life with Josephine and Stephen, the locked doors, the whispered phone calls. Stephen smiled and never reached his eyes. Tina listened, jaw tightening. "You need to get out, Natasha," Tina said finally. "Stephen isn't just strict, he's dangerous." Natasha nodded, but her throat was dry. Where could she go? Josephine controlled the money, Stephen controlled the doors. She had no one except Tina. And Tina was hiding something too. Tina's gaze flicked towards the exit, then back. My stepmother, Linda, I call her noisy gong, because she never stops talking. She shouts to cover the sound of doors closing. She's hiding something, Natasha, and I think it has to do with you. The bell shrieked. Lunch was over. As Natasha walked away, Tina's final words struck to her skin.
Okay. Sharon, that's a very nice excerpt you read us from. So I want to ask you, you're so young and, inculcated into the art of writing. So what inspired you to become a writer at so young an age?
Well, I loved reading from very young age. And anytime I finish reading a book, I always think, can't I also do something like this? Because anyone can become a writer, no matter the age. And reading is like a hobby. I would rather prefer reading than to playing games or watching TV. So I actually love reading and writing, and that was how writing stories began to form, and I started writing.
Okay, that's so nice. I also want to ask you, the book you're reading from, Meet My Twin, can you tell us about the storyline of the book?
Okay, so it's a heart-wrenching story about twin sisters that were separated at birth due to some health crisis. And one of the twins is left to navigate her way through life. Because she began going through hardship at a very young age when both her parents died. So she has to navigate her way through life and also realize her twin sister.
Okay. So can I also ask you, since you said you were reading a lot, and of course you're reading a lot of stories, for you to be able to formulate such beautiful stories, do you have some favorite writers which you drew some inspiration from?
Yes. I like Chimamanda Adichie. Because her stories feel like real life. She doesn't only write, she puts in passion into her writing. Like I remember when I read Purple Hibiscus. It feels like she's telling the story, like as if it's her life. And it was very interesting.
So I guess you hope to be like Chimamanda someday. I mean, this is a very lovely stone, a stepping stone. I mean, you at this age writing, I'm not sure Chimamanda wrote these books when she was this young. So I think you have a head start above her. I also want to ask you this. You also have another book. Can you tell us some of your plans you have for the future?
Well, I don't want to depend solely on being an author.
Okay.
Because it's
financially, like it's not... In the Nigerian hemisphere, I guess they'll say being a writer is not lucrative. So I guess you don't want to rely on solely being a writer. But I want to know purposefully on your writing ambitions.
Well, I hope to write more books because I'm currently working on a third and fourth book.
Okay.
I don't want to stop here. I want to continue writing.
Okay. So how did you get publishers also? You know, it's when you have inspiration is one thing, and in Nigeria now, to get publishers and people that will key into your inspiration is another thing. So I'm so happy that you actually got publishers. So how was that, that journey for you? How did you get publishers, and how did you get to publish the book?
Well, it started from my JS1.
Okay.
So my dad brought it to my English teacher and told her about it. So we began working on it, and it was meant to be launched in graduation in my JS1, but it wasn't because it was not yet ready. So we continued working on it, and it was launched graduation in my JS2.
Okay.
So, well, it's mostly my dad and my English teacher.
That helped you. Okay. Okay, I just want to tell you now, do you have a message to young writers out there, little girls like you who also have a pen, idea is filling in their head and they don't know where to start from? Can you give young girls like you who want to be writers some inspiration?
Well, when you are being a writer, it needs discipline because so many things can pop up, assignments, chores, and also phones and gadgets. But with the idea and the dream, you can be able to do all things because it doesn't determine how or where you will go in the future. So what I want to tell them today is that when ideas come and imagination puts in its work, don't neglect it because one day you will go places with that imagination.
Oh, that's so lovely, Sharon. I just want to say, I'm so impressed. I feel so happy about this. I mean, I was hoping in Nigeria, but all of a sudden I found hope. I mean, look at one so young here writing this lovely book. I mean, we still have good things happening in Nigeria, and please, you can go out there and get your copies. Dreamland Inheritance is also one of our lovely books. Sharon, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
I do appreciate your voice. My lovely videos all across the world. Don't go anywhere and stay tuned because we'll have more coming up for you on the Weekend Show.
A very good morning to you. You are now on the Entrepreneur Spotlight on the Weekend Show. I'm Tanda Chimeli, bringing you all the latest happenings in the business world and introducing business owners, entrepreneurs from across the country to your doorstep. Building a house in Nigeria is one of the most expensive personal projects an average citizen can undertake. With the cost of building materials continuously on the rise, this is quickly reshaping how Nigerians build, where they build, and who can afford to build, as building structures now require more planning, money, and creativity than ever before. With us on the spotlight today is Mr. Lekadi Feboke, an urban and real estate developer and founder of Burncost. Good morning, sir. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
You tried. Lekadi Feboke.
Lekadi Feboke, all right. Can you tell us a little bit about Mr. Lekadi, your profile, what you do, and etc.?
I like to call myself a sufferhead of real life.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
That's all you get as being a founder or being an entrepreneur in this country, and maybe like anywhere in the world. So I've been an entrepreneur in specifically in the real estate and property sector, where we do building houses, but currently I am in construction tech. I'm using technology to change the face of how Nigerians and private developers build.
Interesting. Incorporating technology with construction.
With construction, yeah.
All right. So coming to building development, what are some of the factors that are driving up the cost of building materials today? Because a building, for instance, take a 2-bedroom bungalow in 2010, and the price and the cost of everything, including the land, compared to now is more than almost 10 times the price. So as an experienced urban developer, what in your experience are some of the factors that drive up the cost of building materials and erecting a building?
Well, there are some of the basic things you would know. They'll tell you things like inflation, cost of manufacturing, sometimes policies from government, transportation costs. Those are the things, some of the things that drive up the cost of building materials, okay? But one other aspect that people don't generally talk about is the cost of not having information, the cost of poor information. Well, yeah, you can call it ignorance, but not necessarily. It's just you don't have information. You have people who go, they want to buy stuff, and then they don't know where to shop. They don't know the quality of materials to buy. They don't even know the materials rating, just to talk about which quality, and then they go blindly. And sometimes they pass through different layers or different people to get these materials. And overall, when you don't know this, it affects your budget. And when your budget is affected, prices rise. It may lead to something called cost overrun.
Interesting.
Cost overrun is the amount you spend above the budget that you have.
Interesting.
Okay, yeah. So sometimes you could, maybe at the end of your project, maybe you had 100 million, for example, to spend on a project. And then at the end of the project, you now spend 150 million. Right? That means you have a 50% cost overrun on your project. So many factors affect that.
Interesting. So it's not just the cost of the building materials and inflation now, knowing that not having the right information and the right contacts can also cost you money.
Fragmented pricing too.
Interesting. So what is the biggest risk or the most expensive aspect of building a structure, and in what ways can an intending building property owner manage that?
You said the risk?
The biggest risk or the most expensive aspect of it?
The most expensive aspect. Averagely when you ask people on the streets, or you just ask some professionals, what's the most expensive aspect, the same question, they will tell you things like finishing or foundation. These are the most expensive aspects. But what I can say here is that people don't know that the cost of your budget, your entire budget, about 70%, 60 to 70% of a construction project in the budget goes to building materials, right? And a lot of people don't have control of that. So I think one of the biggest risks you would face or factors is procurement. Yes, and so procurement is one of the biggest problems.
One of the biggest procurement of the building materials.
Procurement of the building materials, because I mean, if you have 70% of your budget being building materials, that's a risk factor that you don't have control of. If you don't have control of it, do you understand? And I see some people go in without having proper bills of quantities. So bills of quantity, all the quantities that you require for your project. And so when you don't have that under check, it becomes a very big risk.
Interesting. Apart from that, I was thinking we were going to say acquiring the land. But are you saying that the cost of building materials can actually be more expensive than the land on which the structure is being built?
Oh, definitely. Because the building material is a structure, is the building itself, is what you put together to make up your building, right? Your land is your land. Most times you won't see where a person buys a land, say 10 million, and they are building a house of 7 million. It doesn't work that way. You buy 10 million, you're probably building a house of 40 or 50 million. So the higher the cost of your land, the more likely, especially if you're in the space of commercial properties, you're more likely going to want to put properties that are structured that's a lot more expensive than the value of the land.
Interesting.
But the value of the land actually is a major financial factor.
Yeah.
You understand?
Amazing. So what is the most common mistake you see most developers and project owners repeatedly making and while constructing a project?
Most common mistake. One of the mistakes I may say is starting a project without a budget or without proper planning. That's a common mistake. You see people, they get their architectural designs, and they get everything that they need, then they immediately move to site. They don't think about the professionals they need. They don't think about how each phase is put together, each scope or each phase of the construction is put together. They just go to site. They call people, how much you buy rod? How much did you buy rod in this place? How much did you buy blocks in this place? And you bring them together. Okay, let's start. Then in between that process, you start having issues. And before you know it, project creep slips in and then your project stalls.
Interesting. So hiring cheap labor is also part of it?
Hiring cheap labor is a major factor, and in the psyche of some developers, they call it saving costs. But cheap labor is a factor that will eventually raise your cost because you will make mistakes along the way. So it's always best to get it right. You don't have to. You don't let the money out before you plan. You plan before you let the money out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cheap labor is part of the reasons why we have falling POPs and the rest. The pandemic of falling POPs, now that it's the rainy season, repairing roofs and all of that.
But sometimes it's not necessarily cheap labor. Sometimes even the, the builders have a role to play. Some builders want to spend cheap. And they force that very skilled person to do cheap work. So they may be highly skilled, but they're buying poorer materials and execute the project. And at the end of the day, there are issues in the future. I've had an experience like that where on a project we had, there was this issue with the roof. And then, they got the owner wanted to save a lot of money. And so he gave money to, to a contractor who now subleased that contract to someone else. At the end of the day, the materials that came in were really cheap. And then maybe let's say 2 years later, that entire roof had to be redone.
Wow.
So imagine the entire cost.
Interesting. So now tell us about Boncost. You are the founder of Boncost.
Yes, I am.
About fusing technology with building construction. So tell us what everything Boncost is about.
Well, I try to put Boncost in a nutshell because it does a lot of things, right? So Boncost is a construction e-commerce and cost intelligent platform that help builders, especially private home builders or Nigerians in the diaspora, know what materials they need, compare products and prices, find verified suppliers, and make smarter procurement decisions. Okay, so let me give you a scenario. We use artificial intelligence to do some things like cost management, flagging inflated quotations, helping builders generate BOQs, pairing verified suppliers to the builders. So imagine that issue we talked about. Most of the problems we've talked about, Boncost is designed to solve all those problems. Okay, you don't need to go too far to call too many people to know the exact prices. We're giving you real-time pricing. You come online and you're looking for something like cement, the system will be able to compare vendor A to vendor B and match your budget. If you share your budget, it's going to show you all the vendors around your location who are selling at that price. And if it isn't, it's going to advise you on what the current price is. So if there are information about price changes in the future that come up, the system also informs users and also suppliers of this kind of thing, so they are able to manage whatever they're doing and whatever sales they're doing. Also, it has something called an escrow account. So money is paid in full before the supplier sends, but the supplier doesn't receive that money. He sees it, he sees the notification, he supplies, the builder verifies that's exactly what he wants. Of course, after all the advice using the artificial intelligence and tool in it, and then he authorized payments. So it protects the builder, it protects the supplier at the same time, and many other things that it does. It also does, it's pretty much the core things that BondCost does. So we're trying to formalize the procurement industry, procurement sector of construction, making it much easier and making it smarter for builders to take decisions, procurement decisions.
So it's safe to say that in a nutshell, BondCost is like, should I say, Uber for construction, right?
Pretty much. They call it e-commerce, yes. But it's cost intelligence. It just makes we want you to be more comfortable at home or at your office, and you're able to order things. You have your itinerary well arranged and things like that easy.
So it saves all the stress and all the mistakes that occur with building and construction.
Yes.
Now, for those viewers who are probably biting their fingers right now and wishing they had this option when constructing their own projects, or people that currently have building constructions going on or intend to, want the contact information to be able to register or subscribe to BondCost to be able to use the application or the website?
Okay, so currently the application, we're at the phase where we are onboarding vendors. So we're getting about 300 vendors on the platform, so it's easier for you to shop on. And if you want to join, you would use www.bondcost.com to just join the waitlist, and you will get information, direct information on when we launch and when you can come in.
Okay.
So we're currently onboarding some of the vendors we already have conversations and partnership with.
Interesting.
So let's say within the next 1 month or thereabouts, tentative time frame.
Interesting. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on the show. We hope to see more of you on subsequent episodes.
Thank you very much.
Entrepreneur Spotlight.
All right.
But there you have it, people. Mr. Lekadi Feboke of BondCost, an application that connects you with verified vendors, building planners, project constructors, etc. And you can join on www.bondcost.com to get more information on that. That's all we have for the Entrepreneur Spotlight today. But stay tuned, we have the lifestyle segment coming right up with Emeka Ozorumba and Gloria Tor. I'm Tando Chimeru. Don't touch that dial.
Good morning. You are now on the lifestyle segment. My name is Gloria To, and with me is Emeka Ozorumba. Emeka, good morning.
Good morning, Gloria.
How are you doing?
Doing good.
Thank you. Today we're discussing on a very sensitive topic. We're living through a period where economic hardship is no longer simply an economic conversation. It is affecting how families eat, how young people plan their future, and how businesses survive, and even how citizens relate with the government and one another. But in the middle of these difficult realities, it is an important question: what does active citizenship mean when people are struggling with themselves to survive? Is citizenship simply about voting during elections or paying taxes and obeying the laws? Or does it also require citizens to speak up, to demand accountability, participate in their communities, and contribute to solutions even when times are hard? And perhaps, more importantly, where do we draw the line between citizen responsibility and government responsibility? Before we continue the conversation, let's hear from you. What does active citizenship mean to you, Emeka? Good morning.
Good morning. Well, active citizenship to me has a variance or a plethora of meanings. But when we're talking about the Nigerian context, you can only wonder what it means, because if you say you want to get active in being a citizen, what does that have for you? I mean, what plans does Nigeria have for you generally? So it's only when someone gives you something that you also think to give the person back. So at the moment, what is Nigeria giving us that needs us to give Nigeria back? So I think that is the paramount question, or what we should be asking ourselves. If not, our citizenship is just like, let me say, a paper card with no value.
Well, great. Yeah. So before we delve in, I want you to introduce this special guest we have here.
Okay, we have Mr. Ilya Yamu. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Good morning, Gloria.
Good morning,
sir.
Good morning, viewers. Thanks for having me again.
Okay, yes, okay. We also have Ms. Princess Obiano Judu, House of Reps candidate for the APM, Allied People's Movement, and she's also the founder of Face of Congeniality.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for coming on the program.
And thanks for having me.
Welcome, Princess.
Thank you so much.
I know we've had several interactions. I'm also a Yali member, but you wouldn't know.
Nice to meet you again.
Same here. So when we talk about active citizenship, people often reduce or see it as maybe during voting in election times. But if we talk about voting out of the equation for a moment, what should active citizenship actually look like in our daily context of an ordinary Nigerian?
I believe that active citizenship would be that the citizens participate, in the progress of their communities and the nation without just being passive observers. And participate by being informed. You start by knowing what is obtainable and where the gaps are. And then you participate in the civic processes. You had already said outside of the voting, right? Also being a brother's keeper, I'd say that, like looking out for your neighbors and stuff like that. Also, active citizenship would be to be involved in the initiatives that are already on ground. What has the government put already on ground? That would be active citizenship.
Amazing. Let's come to you, Prof. You made mention of what has the government put on ground. There's an argument that says that you cannot ask people to actively participate in government. So when they are primarily concerned about food, rent, transportation hike, and keeping their children in school, is economic hardship itself becoming a barrier to active citizenship?
Absolutely. Before you even talk of active citizenship,
you will have to talk of who a citizen is. Then if you have active citizenship, then you must have a passive citizenship. And the government ordinarily ought to create conditions conducive for citizens to be very active. If you look at it from a constitutional point of view, if you look at Chapter 2 and Chapter 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, okay, Chapter 2:14 particularly spells out so many things the government is supposed to do for citizens. Okay, 14:2 says, look, the duty of government is the security and welfare of the citizens. Has the government done that for the citizens for them to become very active? That notwithstanding, an active citizen should perform his or her civic duties. Last week or 2 weeks ago, last week to be precise, INEC has released voters register that over 100 million Nigerians have registered to vote. In 2023, only 22% of 93 million Nigerians voted. That shows us that 78 were passive citizens. If you don't vote, you can't grumble about it. Even if you are grumbling about the government, you've not performed your civic duty. So active citizenship means doing your civic duties as a citizen. Of course, there is so much problem on ground. There's no doubt about that. Those in government are not living in reality with those of us that are on ground citizens that are suffering, that have been reduced into poverty.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Let me come to you, Mr. Bian.
Yes, thank you.
So we're looking at this context now in terms of lifestyle, in terms of how Nigerians live. We've had situations where the First Lady has said that young entrepreneurs or old or as good as or old as they may be should venture into things like, frying akara and kuli, as she puts it. So how do we look at this context now in terms of what Nigerians are facing and the entrepreneurship skills they could apply at this point in time to get themselves out of this fix?
Well, I'd say that policy needs to meet reality. Right, and the reality on ground is even those who are the civil servants and are earning, I think 77,000 or 70,000, I'm not sure. It does nothing for them. And then when you say entrepreneurship, yes, they may have put some policies or initiatives in place to support them, give them grants and stuff. But how much akara do I need to fry to pay my rent that's just been increased with 50%? How much akara? Where do we start from? I don't think that is sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable at all. I also believe that if you're also saying we should go and fry akara, then shut down the schools. Maybe start some skill acquisition, teach us how to fry akara and kulikuli. Why do I need to go to school, pay all that money, work hard to fry akara and kulikuli? No, it doesn't make sense.
The First Lady says that people should go out and fry akara and kulikuli. There is hyperinflation on ground. I don't know, as it is now, the lower denomination currencies in Nigeria, 100 naira, 50 naira.
They are out of circulation.
They are out of circulation. The least article you can buy in the market is about 200 naira. That shows you that there is hyperinflation, and government policies are not encouraging productivity. And if the First Lady said people should go and fry akara, where will they start? Where is the money coming from? How will they? The economy is such a way that there's no strategic plan. We live one day at a time in this country. You can wake up, go to the fueling station, fuel is 1,500. A countryside, 1,000, like in the northeast where I come from, is about 1,700 per liter. So where would the people get the money to initiate what the First Lady is?
Let's look away from the First Lady now. Let's look to our young ones.
Yes.
Like this morning, I just had a very beautiful and tremendous young one come up and talk about something, write a book and talk about something very glorious. So there's still hope, but we can see that there's this Japa syndrome where our youths, they see that the country is not conducive for them. Economic plans are not that stable. And so they want to go abroad and give them their services and actually get money. Some of these things are called brain drain. Those people at the end of the day, they use your services to better their country while yours is underdeveloped or remains undeveloped. So how can you assure the youth in these times that they can also still be in Nigeria and still survive?
You see, with humility, I've lived outside this country. I'm so sorry to say that. I'm saying it on TV. I had to leave Nigeria at one time, but I said, look, let me come back to contribute. Governments must lead by example. Yeah. Those in government cannot live ostentatiously and expect citizens. People look up to those in front of them. Like, I've just taken a picture with that little lady because she's a talent. Where things work well. Such type of lady from your state, somebody will say, where is this lady? How did you do it? Let's encourage her. Some people will say, oh, this. So Japa syndrome is part of the failure of leadership in our country. Okay? Ordinarily, when government works, people should be coming back to Nigeria to invest. But when there's so much insecurity, you're driving from here to Asokoro, or you are driving to Nyanya, you have to look at your back. Will I go safe? Will I come back? And you have to believe in prayers. So it is completely a failure of leadership. That is why you see young people, Italians, have to run away from this country.
So, speaking about accountability, we spoke about the Japa syndrome and all that. How can citizens demand accountability from government without turning civic engagement into hostility or misinformation or even political confrontation?
I've just talked about the Constitution. There are some rights citizens have. Politics is at its highest peak now. Like I said, leadership should be by example. Again, there's so much controversy going on at the moment. The sitting president has just submitted his IMF form. I'm sorry, I have to talk about it, okay? And he omitted his primary school, he omitted his secondary school, and submitted his BSc certificate. Leadership should be such that when people look at you, they say, look, I want to be like Mr. X. I want to be like Mr. B. So it is citizens' right, like you are talking about citizenship, isn't it? Yeah. People should have. We know that president at the moment has immunity, but this is a case. What we call civic organization. Civil and civic organizations should be able to pick up. Look, you want to be our leader. We want to know the primary school you attended. Of course, you can go to court and say, look, yes, I've attended this school, I've lost the certificate. It is part of leadership. Also, there's so much insecurity. We know how our country operates. So this is what active leadership, citizenship should be all about ordinarily. This should be checked. You can't be my leader and you say, look, if you're in the public space, people must know about you. If you want to lead by example.
Okay. Can I just ask you about what you've been doing with your face of congeniality? Like now, in this situation where young girls are actually looking for the limelight and how they can boost themselves in terms of their own morale and what they can be in the society. So how have you come with that and how you've actually worked with young girls and taking them to how they could actually be who they want to be?
Thank you very much. So for the past 7 years, what we've been able to do is empower them. And when I say empowerment, people ask me, what do you mean? What do you mean? We've been able to build value, right? Personal development, re-engineering the mind, not just waiting on the government, helping them to upskill, right? Across various learning track communications, financial literacy, branding, strategy, marketing, and various things. But then we also recently we just introduced Women in Governance, where we're trying to help them understand that women can also be leaders. Women should not be left out. Women can bring a change in every sector and every industry. And when you remove them, when you neglect them, those sectors suffer, right? FSC has been able to help them build this value, where they are also building and creating opportunities, not just for themselves, but for the society at large.
All right, let me follow up with that. Nigeria has a very young population, yet many people are confronting the issues of unemployment, underemployment, rising living costs, and uncertainty about their future. And so many people come out to say, we want to do an empowerment program. After that, after the whole program, worthless because some people are being empowered, right? But there's no follow-up. How do you bring that to reality from what you've done?
So we create community. We create community, so we don't let them just, be on their own. We do follow-ups and we create community. Community because, we don't think anyone's an island, right? We believe that when you relate, when you're relational, when you have other persons who are motivating you, pushing you together, and when there's accountability, there's a system to be accountable for what you have learned and how you're being applying those things that you have learned, and you're able to grow better and do more.
Ms. Elia, let's come to you now. At the core of this, of what our discussions are economic reforms, how the society can get better, how our economy can go from being a stumbling block to something where people can rely on. So the key to all this should be electing good leaders and should also be having a system and institutions that work. So let's talk about now how you can let me say coerce, because Nigerians right now need to be coerced to vote, to also exercise their franchise. So how can you also talk to Nigerians about using their franchise to get what they want in terms of economic plans?
You see, we're in a democratic setup. January next year, I think January 16th and February 7th, there will be an election. People talk of rigging. Leaders at the top don't rig. It is the people in the community at the polling units, at the wards that rig for leaders. So people must vote. Okay, Nigerians must come out, vote, and protect their votes. 230 million people, isn't it? Yes. Let's assume the 100 million that has registered now. Let's assume about 80 million have come out to vote. It is your right. If you vote, when your vote is counted, okay, more for the INEC is using beavers and the rest of them, and with the social media, okay, you record this vote and send them across. There cannot be any meaningful change economically, and they are very good people in government. I'm so happy my colleague here, Princess, is actually a candidate for House of Representatives. Yes. For the records, I'm also a candidate for House of Representatives under the Nigerian Democratic Congress, aspiring to represent my people, Madagali, Michika Federal Constituency in Adamawa State. You must vote for good people. That's why we say that leadership should be by example. You must look at people what have they done for their community. She's talking of empowerment. The empowerment, always remember what they said, that don't give people fish. Teach people how to catch fish. And empowerment whereby you just go and give people money, 50,000, 100,000, it will be hyperinflation we are having on ground. The next day that money will finish. But when you encourage people to learn trades, encourage people to learn carpentry, encourage people to create craft school, our educational system must change. Gone are the days whereby, I will go and read, I don't want to mention a course, for example, and you will be looking for a white-collar job. No. I can tell you, a vulcanizer can earn a lot of money. Okay? The last time I went to check my car, I was charged 1,000. So I was joking with the gentleman. You can imagine if you charge 10 people, 10,000. That is a lot of money. So our orientation must change, okay? And people must go back to the farm. That is one other thing. Government must encourage people to go back to the farm, but our educational system must change whereby people must learn that they can practice when they leave university or leave polytechnic, as the case may be.
Okay, as you talk about, when you talk about the farm, Sebaliju, let me just come to you briefly about security, because people are actually running from their farms now because of insecurity. So what roles do you think the Nigerian citizens can also play in collaborations with the security agencies to make their environment very secure?
To be, like I said, not just be passive observers. They need to be alert, right? They need to know what security agencies to reach out to in case they see anything, say something, right? But then I believe that the social contract says that it is the responsibility of the government for the welfare and security of its citizens. Although we're not going to, because of course the democracy, right? A functional democracy would be active citizenship and a functional government, right? So we can't just put that burden on the citizens. And then what can we do? We've seen cases where people go to these agencies, they report to these agencies, and it backfires. It doesn't. So people are not even. There's this saying that the police is your friend, but I don't really know.
You know about security. The last time I was here, we talked about this policing.
Yes.
You know, everybody in our system, particularly in Nigeria, we have village heads, we have ward heads, isn't it? We even have politically, we have councillors. You know, for us to police our system very well, we have to go to real community policing.
Okay.
You know, federal government police with policy. If you go in my village, I should be able to know my neighbors. The village head should know who comes to his or his domain, as the case may be. So community policing will solve almost half of the problem of insecurity in this country, but the government has to supply the resources.
Okay.
This is the best place we can leave it. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and it was delightful hearing from you. And thank you so much, Emeka, for always staying by. We have more coming up. My name is Gloria To.
And my name is Emeka Ozurumba. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Good morning, Nigerians. You're welcome to the political segment of The Weekend Show. My name is Roland Obogben, and with me to do justice to this conversation is
Chimani.
Welcome back on set.
Thank you so much, Roland.
Thank you. So this morning we'll be basing our conversation around a lot of trending issues in the political space, governance, institution, 2027 elections, and Nigerians in particular.
The EFCC placed a debit restriction on an Osun state government account 10 days before the Osun governorship elections over allegations of mishandling of public funds. The restriction was later revoked by the president, stating that the timing could give the wrong impression of federal agencies, especially towards the upcoming gubernatorial elections in the state. Now, this isn't the first time EFCC is freezing accounts linked to Osun. In 2014 and 2018, accounts linked to the former deputy governor, Iyola Omishore, and accounts linked to Senator Ademola Adeleke were also frozen days to their gubernatorial election. Now, is this really about fighting corruption, or is this about preventing opposition from funding their campaign? Roland?
That's the hardcore questions that some of this agency, head of this ministry, find very difficult to answer. And Nigerians want answers. You know, Nigerians, they want answers. So joining us to make sense of these conversations,
we have the two gentlemen with us here. Would you care to introduce?
We have Honorable Sajos Ogun, the former Rep member 2014. You get that correctly. You're welcome.
And also we have Honorable Clement Jimbo, the Deputy Chair, House Committee on National Planning and Economic Development, and 2027 House of Reps candidates. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
It's an honor to be here. You're welcome. We saw how the space is being heated up with the current issue. I think we should kick off from there. So the timing, is it the matter of timing, the Osun State issue with the EFCC? And what's the rule of law? What does the law say? Does the EFCC has rights to just freeze a state account without prior notice or without a court's order?
Well, I don't think any of this really will be the issue. Whether, I think they can do that under the law. I think they were reading the acts. I saw the spokesperson, Wisin Owojire also, but talking about, yes, the powers they have to do that. And also they can also go to court and get a court order to do it. But bottom line is, should the state be using state resources for elections? So that's why some of us are very different in our belief in governance. If that money is meant for salaries, it's not end of month. If the money is meant for running the state, well, yes, we can say if by freezing the account, a state business will, the business of managing the state will suffer. But what's the urgency? That's when you see EFCC even using most of their cases when they go to court. If you think they're going to take that money for one thing or the other, the governor is not going to run away. In any case, he has immunity. He's not running away. He's running for that office. Whether he wins or not, he has maybe another many months.
But it seems because many people are saying that this is not the first time, this is the trend, but it's just that during the APC administration it's more popularized. It's more like you can do and get away with. Why Osun now, and why this timing? Why?
Yeah, where I'm coming from is yes, we can all read motives into it. Yeah. But I'm even saying the kind of country we want and we envisage in somebody like Peter Obi being the president is none of this really happen. Yes, if you take your time to do your investigation, before the man leaves, if you have anything against him, you charge him to court. It doesn't have to be 10 days to the election, one. And secondly, why would the state need money in the account to do the election? It's state money. You shouldn't be using state money for elections. People should donate to the party, and if you believe in the system, you give towards it.
But we're also seeing the opposition party, like the governor of Edo State, is just so he has been in Osun State campaigning for the APC candidate. Don't you think, or the perception that he also came with the state money to also fund the campaign of his party member?
He is not the only one. Funny enough, see, look at where I'm coming from. I don't even want to talk about APC. I don't know whether my dear brother is a member of APC.
Absolutely.
I don't want to talk about APC. APC is a mistake that happened to Nigeria. And by the grace of God, by 2027, we will get rid of that virus.
So people's opinion differs.
What does it mean?
He's not to give his own.
So that's the point. That they are all there spending money, and even the federal government. Okay, look at Aribishola. He's the secretary of national secretary of AGC. He's from Osun State, two-time governor, former minister. But do you hear of AGC in this campaign? So where I'm coming from is we want to take out money from politics. But that is why you see all this madness. When election is coming, everybody's. If there's no money in it, if you are just going there, it's public office. So you are going to render service to the people. Not for self. Why are you naming people? Why are we spending so much? If you are just going to go there to serve the people. So that's my thinking. I don't want to go into whether Obabolo is there or they're spending money. Like I said before, that APC happened to us is a mistake, and God with all Nigerians. Let's take care of it.
Let's come to you.
Well, this is what I
First of all, there's claims from EFCC that the money that are being moved around in your state government accounts are being used, public funds are being used for election campaigns. Now, did the EFCC provide any proof towards those allegations before commencing with the freezing of the accounts? Also, let's consider that there is also the previous case of the, I think, over 200 billion naira pending that the court has ordered the EFCC to release to the Osun State government, which is also yet to be implemented. So what's your take on that?
Okay, thank you very much. First, let me state to Nigerians that I'm a lawmaker, and everything that I'm going to say here will be within the ambit of my office, which is lawmaking, and of course the law. And when I talked about the law here, I'm talking about the Establishment Act of most of these agencies or departments and ministries. Let me first respond to what my colleague here said, that the All Progressives Congress was a mistake that happens to Nigeria. I take total exception to that. In 2015, let me just bring out one statistics. In 2015, when APC won election, clear, push an incumbent party, the People's Democratic Party, out of the saddle. The foreign reserves of Nigeria in 2015 was about, let me be very factual, okay? The foreign reserve of Nigeria in 2015 was about $28.28 billion US dollars. 31. When I come, you can respond. $28.28 billion US dollars. And in 2015, that APC took over from that $28.28 billion US dollars. We have moved it within 11 years to about $52 billion US dollars, increasing it by about $24 billion US dollars within 11 years. Now the PDP, I don't know if it was a PDP party. PDP took from 1999 and increased it to 2015 from $5.45 billion US dollars to about $28.28 billion US dollars, increasing it by just $22.83 billion US dollars within 16 years. Now, International Monetary Fund has clearly stated that in 2031, when APC must have completed its first leg of 16 years of rule or leadership in Nigeria, the foreign reserve of Nigeria would have climbed to $62 billion US dollars. So it is regretting that APC happened to Nigeria. I will say, and many Nigerians let APC happen to Nigeria again and again. And let's also place the facts on record. In 2015, what was the population of Nigeria? Estimate. It's about 185 million people. What is the population of Nigeria today? Estimate over 240-something million. Again, what was the wage bill, salaries, allowances of civil servant, federal civil servant of Nigeria in 2015? It was about, let me be very sure, it was about 1.83 trillion naira. What is the same wage bill today of Nigeria? It's over 8 trillion. So, when somebody says, let APC not happen to us, I will say, let APC happens to us again and again. Yeah, that's not about that. Just the EFCC, so the whole of it. No, let me still answer the your question about EFCC. I said I'm going to speak as a lawmaker, as a member of the parliament that makes law, and in regards of the actions and inactions, so to say, of the EFCC. Let me state very clear that the Establishment Act of EFCC 2004 and the Money Laundering Act of 2022 clearly gives EFCC the responsibility to prevent crime when it comes to money laundering from even happening. So what EFCC did to show state government their account, and every other state government is within the ambit of the Establishment Act, that enables them by preventing it. And let me also say this. I'm the Deputy Chairman, National Planning and Economic Development of the House. Every time we engage with this NDS in terms of budget defense, we look at what it costs Nigeria, especially EFCC, to recover 1 naira of every stolen fund. So we put it across today. Is it not cheaper for you to stop these funds from being stolen rather than spending this humongous amount in trying to recover? It's a mandate of the 10th House of Representatives that we put forward to EFCC.
So we are claiming EFCC being proactive in this case. If you're claiming they're being proactive in this case, what about the over 200 billion naira that has been ordered by the court to be released by the EFCC to the Osun State government? Why has it not been released?
Well, I'm not privy to the detail of that very court judgment. Maybe after I'm going to look into it.
Okay, while you are not privy, from your thoughts, the statistics you gave, because we have issues of statistics. We don't know what source that data came from, because I saw Honorable Sergio shaking his head. Even I'm trying to find the source of that statistic. So to fast check you where this data came from. And you also mentioned the monitoring fund. It's a whole different ballgame of, we all know what the IMF have done to African countries. So let's not go into that, because one of the things that's hitting Nigeria is the source. I told you, but you didn't tell me. Okay, let's leave that. Now you're talking about the IMF, the projected Nigeria, the present realities of Nigerians. It doesn't represent or reflect from what you have said. Remember, the IMF asked, I think, Goodluck Jonathan to remove subsidy and devalue the naira. He didn't do that. But immediately the president came in. The first thing he did was to devalue the naira, remove subsidy. And that went hard on Nigerian economy. Now, I want to link that to the present issue on ground with the Dangote refinery. Nigerians have suffered for decades over refinery. We are oil producing nation. Now we have a private refinery coming up trying to leverage the suffering of Nigeria and also make fuel affordable. Now the IMF gives Nigerian government an advisory that should issue license to more importation of fuel. Now, if they do that, what that means is that Dangote refinery will go down, because they are projecting that those fuel imported will be cheaper. Why the Dangote refinery will cost more? Now, if they do that, Dangote refinery will have no choice but to close down. And when it closes down, we have more importation of fuel. Mind you, the IMF is not smiling. They brought your advisory, they didn't force it on you. Now, on a long term, when they see that you no longer have a local producing capacity or mechanism, your importation shoots up, price of fuel will go up. Then Nigeria will have no choice but to buy fuel at a costly rate. Now Nigeria don't have any refinery to produce. So what can you say about the IMF and what the present administration, the APC, just like you said, as a lawmaker, you're speaking as a lawmaker. So I'm coming to you based on this treaty, based on this agreement. What's your position? Remember, IMF in every African soil from inception, you can fast check it, has never produced a good development within the African region.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you also give me enough time to give clear explanation to your queries. First, you've alluded to the fact that IMF is an advisory body.
Yes.
They advise you.
Yes.
So as a leader, it is left for you to take the advice when it is good or if it is not good. Now, the advisors are against against subsidy. Yeah. Did the president go ahead to remove subsidy?
He did.
Now, has it turned out to be a good thing for Nigeria?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Okay, let me break it down. What if I tell you that the current president that we have foresaw that in 2022 there will be a war between Ukraine and the other nation, I've forgotten now.
Russia.
What if I equally tell you that the current president foresaw that in 2024 till date that there will be a war between US, Iran,
Israel,
and Israel? Will you believe?
part of leadership is not just about taking decisions. It is about studying the consequences of the decision. It is after you have studied the consequences of such decision that is what propels you to either go ahead and take the decision or not to go ahead and take the decision. So from day one, when the president came on board, he foresaw that today, if Nigeria did not have a functional refinery, what is happening in the global market would have affected.
No, I didn't court. So why I didn't court?
Let me come. No, wait now. Let me buttress the point. The global oil market is very, very fluid, and you need to really understand. Meaning that if Nigeria did not have a functional refinery, Nigerians would have suffered. You will have money, you will not even see the petrol to buy. It happened. In the 16 years of PDP rule, every official pump price that the government, the then DPR, Department of Petroleum Resources, will come and pronounce, the official pump price is 2 naira, is 3 naira. Have you ever gone to filling station within those periods to buy at the official rate? You will always buy it higher than the official rate. And if you want to buy at that official rate, you will need to queue in a filling station for 2-3 days. But we don't have that now. Supposing there was no even Dangote refinery, what would have happened to Nigerians now? So a leader that sees ahead takes the decision now to push the effect, the dangerous effect of what he saw. Is what we have.
But we have a lot of corruption in that sense.
I'm not here to defend.
No, we're speaking on parliamentary as a parliament.
I'm not here to speak on many policies of even government that are not working. If they are not working, I will tell you they are not working. Recently, I saw on the news a Minister of Finance signed an agreement with Project Gazelle, forward sales agreement, about 90,000 barrels of crude oil.
Could you make your thoughts because of time? Yes, let's write up on the thoughts.
If the government policy is not working, I will speak against it.
Okay.
And the unfortunate thing is that right now we are on recess. I would have raised the motion to counter that. When the then NNPCL were making policy that were not favorable to Dangote, I spoke against it. In fact, I moved a motion for the sack of the then GMD of NNPCL, and he was sacked. And now that there is a war, I equally prepared a motion for Nigeria to have what is called strategic petroleum reserve, which currently we do not have. But we are recess. So there are people that mirror into the policies of government to equally advise government, because Nigeria, when Nigeria works, it works for all of us.
Thank you. Let's
be against it.
Yes.
If there is no Nigeria, there is no.
Let's have a has been reaching to all your states.
It's not for a bombshell.
I thank God that this is we're in a democracy.
Yeah.
Nigerians are listening to us, and in the first case, when I don't want to spend too much time responding to you, so that we don't lose thought, we don't lose whatever you have for us today. When the PDP came into power, Obasanjo, the foreign reserve was 4.99 billion, no 40.
Yeah.
When Obasanjo was leaving, it was about $68 billion. When Obasanjo was leaving.
As of then,
yeah. 68. Yes, you are correct on the 28 point something billion. Because the handover then we heard it was about 30 billion, 31 billion. Yes, but I just googled this about 28 point something billion when Jonathan was leaving. But you see, if you take that into context, the price of crude oil was sliding when Jonathan was leaving in 2015. Yeah. That's my industry. I can tell you anything about it. But also look at the exchange rate then. It was 150 naira to the dollar. Yeah. What is it today? So if you want to start throwing all these statistics, discover that you confuse Nigerians. We are talking about governance. Jonathan tried to remove subsidy in 2012. Who kicked against it? The same man you say foresaw that there would be war. Huh? Then he's borrowing every second. With the subsidy removal, we should have saved enough. In any case, this president didn't have anything to do with Dangote refinery. It was already commissioned by Buhari before this president came in. So when you are talking about if without the Dangote refinery, this This president didn't have anything to do with it. The PDP government supported Dangote to start off. Fashola gave him the seal of O to start. So where did Asiwaju come in?
Okay, let's just wrap up because let's look at the investigation administration. Yes, I saw that. Okay. Let's look at the conversation again. So let's look at the issues around the physicians ministry. Now, Nigerians want more than investigation because we are seeing what the committee set up to investigate these issues around how did this ministry got into the budget. Because Mr. Adeni Adeyemi is not that powerful enough to go into all those ministries, submit papers, get approval, and is now in the budget. And also, to the extent that an account was registered with the CBN. So let's have your thoughts, just like seconds, so that we can wrap up the political segment.
Are you asking?
Yeah.
APC is a virus. I've told you before.
You don't feel anything good about APC.
It's okay. Are you enjoying APC government?
That's for Nigeria.
One of those enjoying APC government.
But the other policies that they have done,
I've not seen one.
So tell me one. I don't know, but I just respond to that. But the reforms around the tax reform. I'm not saying Nigeria. So let's have it. Okay. Let's have it.
Let me just give you more.
No, let's have your thought on this
paper, but what are the direct impacts on the Nigerian citizens?
I'm a member.
Are you responding to this on the investigation? Let's have a question. The director of
we passed it. Millions of students are going to school literally free. If it says that is not a good policy, then we should re-examine how we
as a result of the inflation caused by the when you create a problem and give us a pacifier to
why are not going to school? It's national assembly members. Your children are not in the government. Let me say president. Let me say.
All right. The conversation is getting heated.
Akwa Ibom State. I just saw it on social media. Public school. Of course, we have free and compulsory education in Akwa Ibom State. It has been there for years.
That's why it's
from primary to GS1 ever public school student with parallel A1.
I get your point of view. I get your point of view and I understand it. So the one thing that they say is the policy when Nigerians are talking about.
That is a good policy. For example, in 2020, I don't know for APC government.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a good time, and we want Nigerians also know that you have people in parliament, people in leadership position speaking for you. You can see how chaotic our conversation is going. It should tell you that everybody wants a good Nigeria. Everybody wants a Nigeria where everybody will feel accepted without intimidation, enjoy life because we have all it takes. I think that's where we have to drop this conversation.
So thank you, Cedric and Clement. It was an interesting conversation. We're going to invite you subsequently.
Thank you so much. My name is Rolando Bogo.
My name is Tenda Chevrolet.
Stay tuned on the weekend show. More segment coming your way.
Morning to our viewers all over the state and the nation here in Nigeria. My name is Aisha B, and you are now watching Social Media Trends, where we discuss trends on social media from Facebook, X, Instagram, and so much more, and what Nigerians had to say about the topics particularly that are trending online. The first things first, and it is our tradition to have the song of the week. Now, let me tell you something real quick. You know, Rema has just released a new single. Most likely it means that an album is going to be up and running very soon. Right now he has a new single titled T. And you know when they say T, whether you're a Gen Z or a millennial or an alpha, it means that you're going to give us something good, right? Take a look at this short clip with the song trending at number 5 on streaming platforms. Take a look at T by Rema. Is your body tea? My body's tea. All right, getting straight into it. Joining me on today's set is Goodness Chi. Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Aisha B. How are you?
I'm great. I love these colors. You look amazing.
You look good too.
Thank you so much. All right, let's get straight into it. What did you think of the song of the week, first and foremost?
Well, you see, Rema is a young guy who's doing so much in the entertainment industry. I'm so proud of him. He's a young guy, to be honest. And
The fact that he's saying he's young is young. Okay. We need that generation to really get it in there. That's what he's doing with Afrobeats. All right, going straight to fashion of the week. Let's see the looks that trended online. And surprisingly, we didn't have much looks from our superstars here in Nigeria, to be honest. But we do have Cuppy, DJ Cuppy, the daughter of the billionaire Otedola. As you know, she was seen on Marie Claire's magazine front cover page. And look how good she looks.
absolutely amazing.
I love how she has, lost a bit of weight. She's kind of owning up the whole era she's in. No longer the pink hair, the pink braids. It's not more woman.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Her looks, the black and white, so detailed, elegant, so good, stunning. I like it.
True, and I love how now, Florence, that's her real name, how she just is able to carry herself now in a more different and matured way, but still giving, elegance
vibes,
and vibes. So I love that. Okay, goodness. Let's get some more looks here. And what do you like about the neck piece she's wearing? I think honestly, it just gave a great statement.
Yeah, this is so unique. So unique. I'm not sure I've seen something like this before. It's so unique and it's so good.
Yeah, it's also giving this era of, trad, like, when you say trad, not our Nigerian trad, but like, how it is outside the country in the westernized world.
Yeah.
Where they have the pilgrimage looks, the puffy skirts.
Exactly.
So I think she's going for a really great look here. She looks amazing.
Yeah.
She looks really good.
Yeah. It's so creative.
Now we have Charlie P. Henson, who proves George at the moment right now. Everybody's wearing shorts, but they're calling it jorts. Cardi B has worn it. Tiana Taylor has worn it. Are you going to be wearing something like that soon? Goodness. How about
No, I'm not. I'm not sure I like this.
This looks lovely. So you know what this looks?
No, I'm not.
Are you serious?
I think I just like the top. But this short is too crazy.
Yeah, they call them jorts. I mean, honestly, that's the point of it. It's not to give this Alte vibe, but still very much responsible, because you can see, look at the heels she wore with it.
It's actually nice, but not for me. It's not my style.
Okay, it's my style. I love it. The neck, you mentioned, the neck of the blouse she's wearing.
Yeah.
It's actually created in a different style. People can wear it in normal color, but wearing it like this makes it edgy. Makes it look like she's definitely younger than her age. They are always looking younger than her age. The actress is always into that. That's her thing.
I like her style though.
Lovely. And her hair too.
Yeah.
Lovely. Now going into our stories that have made headlines on social media. We do have a lot to say concerning the Osun State elections that are currently on the way in Osun State. Davido, the nephew of the governor of Osun State governor, yes. And the truth is that Davido is actually taking a lot of, aura into this election. He's taking...
It's his uncle, of course.
But it's the reason why I feel like they feel they're being sort of attacked or somewhat being treated differently with funding, fees. So he's putting his backing into this to bring his people, his crowd, to ensure that his uncle gets the votes in for Osun State.
Yeah, you see, Davido is nothing like Wizkid, but I must say he is a star boy. And he's really taken the mountain of entertainment seriously. And I like the fact that he's using this fame and all of that to support his uncle. That's what families should do.
Honestly, Davido is usually in support, but this time around is a bit different. He has shown full, entry into this election, and as you can see in the video, look at the people that are coming out, because of Davido. So, and he was just going to
their voters culture.
I don't know anything. Very true. I think
it's not about all this.
It's not about all this. Because that's actually kind of the energy that it feels like they're bringing. Is it going to really reflect on the votes or not? But in the press conference, Davido has mentioned that Osun for the people. It's not about just the and the look. He's talking more about voting and doing the right by the people. So I feel like he's also an ambassador right now. He's the voice for Osun State as well when it comes to Afrobeats. And I really think it's a great turn. What do you think this can do to the turnout for the election?
Well, the thing is, he's an APC candidate, and we've been complaining a lot about APC. So I just hope he brings a change, or he's able to change the change.
Oh, true. I know, but wasn't Davido more as a politician? Do you think it's possible? What do you feel about that?
I'm not sure Davido is ready to take up that space, but even if he does, I think he's going to do a great thing there.
I believe so too, because the truth is that youth right now in Nigeria, we have so much to do to make the country better. It's no longer about age and those that are older. It's about what you can do in your own space, and Davido is owning that, and it's really good to see that. Really remarkable. Saying his album has been out. So much success around Davido right now. There are some comments that we can read here, or even some videos that we do have to share. Look at how he approached and arrived in Osun State.
Just so good. So good.
The dancing governor and his nephew.
He's always really good at this dance.
All right, we have some comments here that we have taken
Such a
from
happy man.
Nigerians. Always lively.
Always
we have from Obey Benjamin. He says, legendary Obi.
Oh, yeah.
From Habila Samson.
He says, look, I like it this way. God bless Davido more for standing for his uncle, the dancing governor.
We have from Tom Odin. He says, nice one, Davido, family support.
And
people have been talking about that family support. Yeah. We can see his daughter's there. So the reason why Davido is the one that is there during this campaign and all of that.
You know, Davido has the fame. So probably,
and the numbers.
Yeah.
And welcome Abduche Hafiz. What
yeah,
he has to say?
Let him ask the supporters to show their voters' cards first. Exactly.
And that's the point you had just made. Very true. Very true. Voters' card.
Very true. It's not about talking or coming out
and dancing.
Exactly.
All right, thank you for joining me this morning. Goodness, so good to have you here.
Thank you, Aisha B.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, that's where we call the curtains here on entertainment. So much to share on social media trends and what has been going on in Nigeria. If you do have comments, reach us on Weekend Show NG on X and on Instagram. My name is Aisha B. See you next week, same time, same channel. Bye for now.
Good morning to viewers across the world. Welcome to your Poetic Kindle on the Weekend Show. My name is Emeka Uzurumba, and I have with me this lovely book, Buffer the Arrows, written by Miss Chidima Humphrey. Good morning, Miss Chidima.
Good morning, Mr. Emeka.
Okay, it's nice to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Okay, and she's going to be reading from us some excerpt from her book, chapter 5, Faith Test. Miss Chidima, you can read for us.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
While I began writing, I lost courage at some point and asked God in prayer to give me a testimony so that my witness to this story would be complete, my frail wisdom. I was dictating for God how to bring glory to his own name. How was that supposed to be my worry? My part was to deliver the message I had been given and allow God in his wisdom to have the final say. But no, I kept looking for a testimony to validate me as a witness so the world would not say, how comes she has so much revelations and things to do and yet hasn't gotten her own evidence, her own deliverance, Then one day as we prayed in church around the middle of 2024, we were all praying in the spirit. At one point, I heard myself praying in English and reiterating, I walk by faith, I will not be carried away by sight. Shortly after that, a sister in the meeting gave a word of prophecy that God said I should not delay the work he has placed in my hands anymore. Initially, I thought it was about a youth prayer I started on Telegram, as I had been getting nudges about a second prayer meeting. Still, I have been relenting. When I got home during my night prayers, the Holy Spirit reminded me of that prophecy again. It highlighted to buffer the arrows. That the message was not just for the youth program, but also for the books. I was writing other books long before this. That everything he has laid in my hands, I should stop delaying it. As there is no time, I found myself struggling with doubt again. I told him, how do I write such a book without my own testimony? He reminded me of the phrase, I walk by faith, I will not be carried away by sight, which I said at some point while praying in the spirit during the service. Then I broke down in tears. I heard in my spirit, what if the testimony you seek is tied to completing this book? What if the healing you seek is meant to happen as a result of your obedience to writing this book? What if another chapter is added just before this book is published, which covers the testimony you are waiting for? What if your testimony happens on the day of the release of this book and fuels the faith of many others who will read, O ye of little faith?
Okay. Ms. Chidima, I'm so sorry for your well of tears, which occurred while you were writing the book.
Yeah.
But I have to say, the title of your book, Buffer the Arrows, is quite metaphorical. So what does that mean, and how did you come up with the title, Buffer the Arrows?
Okay. Growing up, I was not so much into study of the scripture, but along the line, during adulthood, I became very close to studying the Word of God. And if you're a Christian, you know that the Bible in Psalm 127 referred to children as mighty arrows in the hands of a mighty man. So the word arrows there is nothing but children.
Okay.
Yeah. And then to buffer the arrow is being, the Holy Spirit relate with you with the level of your mentality, or should I say your field of expertise. So being a science student and also a nurse, the buffer is something I've been, used to from my chemistry days. And
From the internet buffering.
Okay, so it's not like protect or shield the arrows, so protect the children. That's basically what the title means.
Okay, so what gave you the inspiration to write this book?
All right, so around 2021, that was when my son turned 1. He was born during the COVID. So I started noticing some, growth regression. So we initially met pediatrician then, and their major concern was because of the lockdown. We were not in Nigeria then, that it is more of a sociological problem that we should try to, get him into school. So, but deep within me, I just knew that something was, wrong. So I began writing even before I knew that this project was going to come to limelight. I began writing without even knowing I was writing my own story. Like I mentioned, right reading, this is not the first project in writing I've embarked on. So I was writing other things before this one. I didn't even know that this was going to be a book because I journal a lot.
Okay, so you talked about also this book being multifaceted and affecting everybody in all walks of life. So how does this book affect all Nigerians in all stratosphere of life?
Okay, so just like the tagline says, a call to spiritual responsibility. So I didn't want to narrow it down to relate to parents or guardians or caregivers, medical professionals, especially therapists who are, interfacing with children with developmental challenges. Because in the chapter 2, I've also written about instructions. There are certain signs we see before things, get worse. So if we are aware or we are conversant with these signs, it helps us, even medically, early intervention, it saves a whole lot. So I am putting it out there generally for everyone, because if we are able to detect something that is going wrong or about to go wrong, it's easier to spot and hijack it at that point, or at best inhibit it from further, deteriorating into something that is worse, and then you can take it up from there. So that's why I'm generalizing it to everyone.
Okay, so do you have a message for Nigerians now on why they should buy your book?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you tell Nigerians why they should buy your book?
Okay, so just like I mentioned, this book is not limited to, or it's not exclusive to people or parents or guardians who have children with developmental challenges or who are struggling with any form of challenge at all. It mustn't be developmental, maybe health related issues, but it is also for everyone in general, so that you can be able to, there are chapters in this book that will be able to help you to spot that something is actually wrong. And it will also inspire you to intensify in your place of prayer, because being a medical professional, sometimes we tend to, should I say, overshoot or lay more emphasis on the physical. The reason for the call to spiritual responsibility is to intensify in the place of intercession, because whether we like it or not, there are spiritual undertones to whatever is happening in the physical.
Okay, so where can they get your book if they want to?
All right, so the book is on Seller, and to get to Seller, you would have to go through my social media platform, which is Ike on Instagram. That's how fast you can get to Seller. But it's also on Amazon, both the Kindle edition and also the paperback.
Okay, one final word to young writers who are actually wanting to write and who actually want to get inspiration to write and they don't know how. How could you encourage them to be writers?
Okay, so I had also added something like that in towards the ending part of this chapter 5. We read to encourage people, to pick up whatever they are doing and not be discouraged. Like I said, this was not even a strategically or a programmed, book that I'm going to write this book. I just started writing pieces of my journey, and as time went by, I just said, no, this is going to bless people, this is going to inspire people, and because there is a need for it. Once there is a need for something and you see you are good in an area, it doesn't take much. It's just pieces of your own life and what God is inspiring you to do, and here you have it.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Chidima, for coming on the program. I do appreciate your voice, and your book Before the Arrows is so lovely.
Thank you.
So Nigerians, go out there and get your copies Before the Arrows, and Ms. Chidima is such a lovely writer, and I wish you have a copy to yourselves. My lovely viewers all across the world, don't go anywhere, stay tuned, because we'll have more coming up for you on The Weekend Show.
Super elated to have spent the weekend with you. This morning was splendid. Hope you viewers at home had a great show. Either you learned something, impacted knowledge, and also contributed to the conversation. Please don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms at Weekend Show NGAIT. I remain Aisha B. Thanks for joining us this morning on the Weekend Show. See you next time. Same channel, same time. Bye.
My name is Andy Madashi. For sports, I remain Monday Thomas.
I am a second generation farmer. My parents started this farm in 1962. My father started out not as a farmer, but as a government economist, and he decided to be a farmer when he was in his late 20s. And they started out with sweet corn because he thought that that's what the world needed, was fresh sweet corn. The land that we are sitting on right now, they bought in 1966. I actually am somebody who has never missed a single summer on the farm. I love growing vegetables because it's the one thing that seems like will never go out of style. Everything else that's a food seems to be under some health questions, but vegetables are completely, uniquely healthy. This is the cool view. What did I do with my knife? How hard is it to get land and start a farm? It takes more than most people have. More like 60 years ago, Fairfax County was transitioning from being dairy farms to being suburbs. That development there was the Front Field. And if you go further, that's the Thompson Field. And if you go across the street, that's the Weissman Field. And if you go over there, that's Bradley Thompson's. And so all of these are old farmers from 50 years ago or 60 years ago who rented us property all along this road, all the way to Tyson's Corner. And so when my parents bought this piece of property, there were no suburban developments around here. It was a 2-lane highway, Route 7, which is now currently a 6-lane highway. And all the old dairy farmers were sitting on their property waiting to sell it and waiting to make a lot of money. If you can believe this, the land that was sold adjacent to our property in 2008 was $500,000 an acre undeveloped. An insane amount of money to have to spend to come up with to grow vegetables. What's the solution? What the populace needs to do is say that farming is important to them and that it's just as important as parkland or other public amenities that people really enjoy living near. And this is a big step toward keeping agriculture going in a metropolitan area. Farming basically means at the end of the year, hopefully you paid all your bills. But that doesn't mean you have any money left to start the next season unless you happen to have such a good season. CSA is a great fit for our farm. I think I have about 600 CSA members.
Happy to be here. We're so blessed, yes.
My father used to borrow $25,000 at the beginning of the season and pay it back to the bank in September. Instead of that now, we ask our customers if we can borrow that money, and they give it to us in February and willingly, and then we pay them back in vegetables through the season. They have 3 different size shares: mini, regular, and robust. If you're a mini share, you get 6, and you just come and pick out whatever 6 things you want. And if you decide you want 6 bags of tomatoes, you get 6 bags of tomatoes.
Oh my gosh, the produce is so fresher, has better flavor. It just, and you get to pick and choose what you want to use. It is just wonderful.
When you do something the same for 20 years or 15 years or 10 years, and you keep coming once a week to somebody's house every week, they're going to get to be like family.
Hey guys, I'm sorry.
So the farmers market part of our business is roughly 40%. So we're very dependent on it.
We do have some spinach. It's in the back corner there.
We go to 5 markets a week for 30 weeks of the year, and one of them we go year round. 20 weeks of the year, though, we don't have a market, really. So we make as much money as we can in those 30 weeks.
Much. And there is your flowers. We're happy to be back.
I think the end closest to the stand is where it's a little bit biggest now. I do not think I'm the last generation that will farm this land, because I have my nephews who are how much younger than I am. They're 30 years younger than I am. And then we have Carrie, who is one of the co-owners, and she's 20 years younger than I am. It's supposed to be the size of a ping pong ball. I think the land will stay because my siblings and the next generation down have unanimously agreed that we will not sell the land. I don't think that people should be so fearful all the time about change. I think that there's opportunity all the time for change to be good. And that's why you have children. That's why you raise people to be better people. It's because you want the opportunities to come up.
At an undisclosed location in South Africa's northwest province, these rhinos are being prepared for life in the wild. That's under a scheme by conservation NGO African Parks to rewild 2,000 captive-bred white rhinos. It's a move that could boost the world's wild southern white rhino population by up to 15%. African Parks project manager Donovan Juice said the aim is to rewild around 200 rhinos per year over the next 10 years to various protected areas across Africa.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime de-risking effort from a conservation initiative at scale that's never happened before. So I think for the species, it's a massive opportunity.
The rhinos were bought from private breeder John Hume. He sold the animals because of the high cost of protecting them. Poaching remains a severe threat in South Africa. 499 were poached in 2023, according to government data, an increase from the year before. Rhinos are targeted for their horns, which are in demand in East Asia for traditional medicines and jewelry.
a pleasure to know you could join us again on Environment Today right here on Africa Independent Television. And this is a program where we x-ray environmental and public health issues which confront you and I every day. And we also seek experts' views on how best these issues can be addressed. My name is Nkoli Omodu, your regular host on the show. And as usual, I'll first take you around the world to bring you environment and public health issues that made the rounds in the last 1 week. And I will be right back after that.
As the sun rises daily, our environment changes. Shall we say human, technology, or our negligence towards the environment caused us a lot of global warming, degradation, or pollution? I'm Nkoli Omodu, journalist, global environmental analyst, and host of Environment Today on AIT. Join me in the environment capital of discussion in Nigeria, Africa, and the world on what is happening in our society, how we can improve our environment culture. I speak to newsmakers, environmentalists, activists, and game changers. The bold moves, big issues, solution topics is all right here. Make Environment Today on AIT your weekly watch.
Nigeria is Africa's most populous nation, with cultural and media influence throughout the entire continent. But it's facing a conservation crisis. Its wildlife and national parks are highly endangered by poaching and illegal logging. It's the epicenter of the illegal trade in ivory and pangolin scales, with tons of products representing thousands of animals seized in recent times by customs. It has strong demand for illegal bushmeat that endangers animals and risks introduction of zoonotic disease. But Nigeria could be a conservation leader. With Lagos leading the way, Nigeria is updating its wildlife legislation. It's improving its wildlife law enforcement, and it's revolutionizing its public awareness. WildAid and its Nigerian partners are launching the largest ever conservation awareness program in Africa to drastically increase coverage of wildlife issues. Working with government agencies, working with the media.
And what if we decided to protect our wildlife? After all, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry currently employing over 3.6 million people on the African continent alone.
Working with prominent Nigerian ambassadors.
Report suspicious activity and wildlife crime.
To promote Nigeria's national parks. To promote wildlife law enforcement. To raise awareness of the dangers of illegal bushmeat. And to promote alternatives. Nigeria can go from crisis to becoming a leader in conservation.
So let's do the right thing.
Tell your families and friends to say no to illegal bushmeat.
Keep them wild.
Keep them wild.
Keep them wild. Keep us safe.
And keep us safe.
Seven of the deaths were recorded in the mountain resort city of Baguio, where a rain-soaked hillside collapsed onto 3 houses. 3 people remain missing while rescuers continue to search under difficult conditions because of the continuing rain and the risk of further landslides. Weather officials say Baguio recorded more than 1,400 millimeters of rain between August 1st and 9th. That is significantly higher than the city's normal rainfall for the entire month of August. Parts of Metro Manila also recorded rainfall equivalent to around 90% of the normal monthly total. Other deaths across Luzon were linked to landslides, drowning, fallen trees and electrocution. Although floodwaters have started to recede in some areas, Authorities say the situation remains dangerous, with heavy rain continuing in parts of the country. The flooding has also renewed concerns about the Philippines' long-standing problems with flood management. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon says years of faulty or inadequate flood control projects have made communities more vulnerable to extreme weather. The Philippines is one of the world's most disaster-prone countries, facing an average of about 20 storms and typhoons each year. Scientists say climate change is making extreme rainfall events more frequent, longer lasting and more intense, increasing the risk faced by communities across the archipelago.
The fire has already destroyed about 900 hectares of the national park, while thick smoke from other fires is spreading across communities and even into neighboring Malaysia. Authorities are warning of difficult conditions ahead as Indonesia braces for an unusual intense dry season. About 200 firefighters, forest rangers, police officers, and soldiers are working to contain the flames at Bromo. Supported by 3 waterbombing helicopters and fire trucks, the national park, one of Indonesia's major tourist attractions, has been closed to visitors since Saturday, as crews battle to bring the fire under control. Authorities say the blaze is part of a wider wildfire problem affecting the country. More than 107,000 hectares of land have already been burnt across Indonesia this year, while more than 48,000 personnel have been deployed to fight fires in 6 provinces. The government has also deployed aircraft for cloud seeding in an effort to encourage rainfall where conditions allow. The fires have also created serious air quality problems. In Pontianak, on the island of Borneo, schools have been closed for a second day because of heavy haze, with children learning from home until air quality improves. The smoke has crossed into Malaysia, where authorities recorded unhealthy air pollution levels in parts of Sarawak and advised residents to remain indoors. The agency recorded an average temperature of 27 degrees Celsius in July, above the normal average of 26.2 degrees. Officials say they are closely monitoring the situation as firefighters continue efforts to prevent the flames from spreading and reigniting.
The Climate Monitor says the exceptional persistence of the heat has left soil moisture levels significantly below normal across much of Western Europe. France, Spain, Austria, and Hungary have experienced particularly dry conditions, while the United Kingdom, Ireland, and parts of Iceland have also been affected. The prolonged heat and lack of rainfall have caused river levels to fall unusually low, disrupting transport, irrigation, and energy production in several countries. The Seine, Rhine, and Danube are among the major waterways facing significant impacts from the continuing drought. Scientists said the combination of extreme heat and dry conditions is creating increasingly favorable conditions for large and destructive wildfires. France and Spain have already faced some of their most severe fires in recent memory, while other parts of Europe, as well as the northwestern United States and Canada, have also battled major blazes. Copernicus also reported that global sea surface temperatures reached a record high in July for the second consecutive month, averaging 20.96 degrees Celsius. Scientists say a developing El Nino in the Pacific is contributing to the warming, while global temperatures could reach another record level this year or in early 2027.
Although no lives have been lost, floods have affected between 50 to 60 households in Wamba, Doma, Kiana, and other communities, with several homes damaged or washed away. Director General of NASEMA, Benjamin Akwash, says affected families have already received relief materials from the agency. He adds that NASEMA intensified public awareness campaigns in flood-prone communities, urging residents to relocate to safer areas before floodwater rise.
They are comfortable. It's their own area. So on a whole, a few people have moved, but the remaining ones that have not moved are the ones that maybe keep on hoping against hope this thing will not happen, or even if it happens, I will not be the one affected.
The state government has also acquired land in Umasha for the resettlement of vulnerable communities and pre-positioned relief materials to ensure a rapid response to emergencies. Akwash acknowledged that relocation remains a challenge for some residents because of cultural and economic ties, but urged them to prioritize their safety.
But I believe by the time that we have secured, we have put up structures, upland, by and large, going forward, they will see the need why they should relocate on a permanent basis, and from there they can go to their fishing, attend to their fishing activities.
He also cautioned residents against building on floodplains, expressing confidence that sustained public sensitization and continued government intervention will further reduce the impact of flooding across the state.
For most of our history, humans lived in harmony with nature.
But we have shared in the balance, exploiting our planet for product and wealth.
Creating a climate catastrophe, driving species to extinction, and polluting our land, sea, and air.
The sight is clear. Time is running out.
We must go from harming our planet to healing it. We must protect what we have and bring back what we have lost to have a more sustainable future where everyone
can survive, because there is only one Earth, and so we must protect it.
There's a massive desertification that's just coming in.
If you keep eating pangolin, you will not even see pangolin, and that means at the end of the day we'll end up telling our children we see open storybooks.
Join Nkoli Modu every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. on Environment Reports. For thousands of Nigerians seeking employment and a more stable economy, fresh investments in the nation's oil and gas industry could offer renewed hope. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission says 22 major offshore oil and gas projects expected between 2026 and 2030 could attract investments of between $30 and $50 billion, creating jobs, expanding infrastructure, and boosting Nigeria's energy security. Speaking at the Society of Petroleum Engineers Nigeria's annual international conference and exhibition in Lagos, the Commission's Chief Executive Orishe Meyiwa Eyesa, represented by Executive Commissioner for Development and Production, Enoronse Amadasu, says more than $57 billion worth of field development plans have been approved since 2024, with several already progressing to final investment decisions.
Beyond increasing production, this investment creates jobs, expand infrastructure, strengthen energy security, and reinforce Nigeria's position as a leading global system investment destination. Since 2022, successive licensing rounds have opened access to some of Nigeria's most prospective oil and gas acreages.
According to the Commission, the 22 offshore projects expected over the next 5 years have the potential to attract investments ranging from $30 to $50 billion. Beyond increasing crude oil production, the projects are expected to create employment opportunities, stimulate local businesses, expand critical oil and gas infrastructure, and strengthen Nigeria's energy security.
The 2025 licensing round concluded with 31 companies emerging successful leaders for 37 oil and gas blocks after progressing through a robust, data-driven, and technology-enabled evaluation process by providing high-quality subsurface data, enhancing transparency, and reducing technical uncertainty. The process has strengthened investors' confidence, accelerated project maturation, and improved the prospects for timely field developments.
As Nigeria seeks to translate its vast energy resources into broader economic benefits, the success of these planned offshore projects will ultimately be measured not only by increased oil production, but by the jobs created, investments attracted, and the positive impact on the lives of ordinary Nigerians.
A fresh report by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC) shows that more than 53 billion barrels of crude oil and condensate were supplied to Nigerian refineries between April and June 2026. The Commission says the development represents 97.4% performance under the Domestic Crude Supply Obligation (DCSO). For motorists, transport operators, manufacturers, and millions of Nigerians whose daily activities depend on petroleum products, the availability of crude for domestic refining remains a critical part of the country's energy story. The latest figures from the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission indicate that the supply of crude to local refineries remained relatively strong in the second quarter of 2026. A total of 53.7 million barrels of crude oil and condensate were supplied to local refiners between April and June, representing an overall domestic crude supply obligation (DCSO) performance of 97.4%. The domestic crude supply obligation is the framework through which oil producers are required to make specified volumes of crude available to licensed domestic refineries under the Petroleum Industry Act. In April, producers supplied 20.9 million barrels against an allocation of 18.1 million barrels, representing 114.9% performance. Supply dropped in May when 14.2 million barrels were eventually delivered against an allocation of 18.8 million barrels, representing 75.8% compliance. By June, however, performance improved, with 18.6 million barrels supplied against an allocation of 18.2 million barrels, representing 102.4% performance. The Commission attributes the improvement partly to increased local oil production and the signing of long-term crude supply agreements backed by bankable sales and purchase agreements between producers and domestic refiners. But the figures also reveal an important part of the domestic refining story. The Dangote refinery indicated a requirement for about 63 billion barrels of crude during the quarter, while producers offered about 68.1 million barrels. Despite the higher volume offered, the refinery eventually accepted 52.6 million barrels, about 78% of the crude offered to it. This reflects the willing buyer, willing seller principle under the DCSO framework, meaning that while producers are expected to make crude available, the final transaction is also influenced by the willingness of refiners to purchase the crude. For Nigerians, the significance goes beyond the statistics. A stronger domestic crude supply system could support increased local refining, reduce reliance on imported petroleum products, and strengthen the country's drive towards energy sufficiency. The NUPRC says it remains committed to sustaining recent gains in crude oil production while continuously enforcing the domestic crude supply obligation.
Hello, we're welcoming you to our social media platform for more information about our program. Environment Today. On Facebook, you can reach us on Environment Today. On YouTube, subscribe, like, and share every of our episodes on Environment Today. Instagram, it is Environment Today. On Twitter, call your /Environment Today. And on WhatsApp, you can reach us on +234 8033 356 388. Catch up and do interact with us, and don't miss any of our environmental issues. Like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.
There's nothing better than the roar of your fans. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that will not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left in the wild, they could be extinct in the next few years. From loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. Please say no to illegal bushmeat, and let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria. Poaching steals from us all.
All right, up next is our feedback segment, and this is where we get to hear your views and your comments regarding the program. And just in case there is any environment hotspot within your locality that requires immediate attention, this is the time to reach us. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. And after that, we'll bring your environment quotes for this week. So this is how we'll be wrapping up Environment Today for this week. It's always a pleasure to know you could give us time and space into your living room. We'll be back here again, same time next week with a fresh package. But until then, please remember that environment is life. So do your bit, I do mine, so we can preserve it. Nkoli Omodo remains my name, and from all of us on the Environment Today crew, we are wishing you the very best. Bye for now.
Nineteen-year-old Hussein Abdurrahman comes to this butcher shop every day to buy 8 to 10 kilograms of meat for Mogadishu's stray animals.
He is such a kind person. It's wonderful to show compassion and kindness to those who cannot afford it. He deserves support for this initiative.
Nearly 70% of Somalis live in poverty, making it challenging for many to afford food for their families, let alone for their pets. So Abdurrahman is filling that gap.
My goal is simple, to spread love and kindness throughout society. It's not just about animals, it's about reaching every corner of our community, from humans to animals, with compassion.
There are no official numbers for the stray animals roaming the streets of Mogadishu, but they are part of the urban scenery. Feeding the animals demand both time and money. Abdurrahman who works at a commodity shop, dedicates a significant portion of his modest income to this cause. He learned his compassion from his grandfather, who also fed stray animals.
When you spend your money on good things, surely you will get back more, and your good deeds are already recorded by the angels.
Each day, Abdurrahman feeds 20 dogs and 30 cats along with some birds. The animals recognize him and rush to him. And every day, he has a crowd of human admirers.
If all Somalis were like him, we would live in a better country. I encourage everyone in the neighborhood and in Somalia in general to support people like Abdurrahman because they spread love and kindness.
Somalia lacks an effective animal organization dedicated to the needs of stray animals, and the country lacks robust policies to protect them. Abdurrahman, a proud dad to 3 cats, aims to address this issue by creating an organization to support stray animals and extend his efforts nationwide. Jamal Ahmed Usman, VOA News, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Nigerian filmmaker Paul Cast is putting the finishing touches to his latest movie, Just the Two of Us. The project is due for release in April, and Cast says he's hoping it will hit big.
The storyline was mainly around a couple and how they were able to go through their journeys and go through lots of highs and lows, mainly trying to typify the kind of struggle that could come in when people are in relationships.
A former psychology student, Cast launched his movie career in 2019. In terms of output, Nigeria's film industry, or Nollywood, is the second largest in the world, behind India's Bollywood, producing over 1,000 movies annually. In December, the Nigerian movie A Tribe Called Judah became the first movie to earn 1 billion naira, equivalent to about $1.1 million at the domestic box office. Tribe Called Judah cast member Olumide Oworu says the movie about a single mother and her 5 sons struggling to make ends meet is a common Nigerian story.
I think everybody that saw the movie just saw a bit of themselves in terms of just wanting to do whatever it takes for your mom to be happy and comfortable.
Cast says the success of the movie Lionheart, directed by Genevieve Naji, which became the first Nigerian film to stream on Netflix in 2019, also inspired filmmakers.
We actually didn't have avenues of distribution like that. But ever since Genevieve came up and did Lionheart, and it just opened up, the door to Netflix and other streaming platforms, it just made people see possibilities.
But filmmakers say access to funding is still a challenge and want Nigerian government and financial institutions to invest more in the movie industry.
There's been improvements in the cinematics, the cinematography, the lighting, there are more opportunities, sound design, as opposed to before when it was just, get a camera, you have a story, you point and you shoot.
And the result and the growing market is good news for filmmakers like Paul Cast and millions of Nigerians who are waiting to see the next big film on their screens. Timothy Obiezu, VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
Hello, you're on Initiative Africa. My name is Asha Sampath. Welcome to this new edition of your weekly magazine featuring Africa on the move through smart innovations and initiatives that work. Let's get on the show with our top stories today. Documentary director, photographer, but also writer, Oswald Levat is a multifaceted talent. This Cameroonian by birth has been writing since the age of 14. She's the author of The Aquatics, a beautiful fresco on the emancipation of an African woman against a backdrop of social and family pressures. The novel was crowned with the first prize for Pan-African literature awarded by the African Union. She's our guest of the week.
How to stop being defined by others, to be no longer defined by how men see us, the patriarchal view, and reinventing oneself.
How an income-generating activity can precipitate an environmental disaster. We are heading for the Congo Basin, where the practice of smoking fish threatens the forests.
When you go fishing, there are days when a lot of fish come out. Sometimes, when they don't sell all that fish, they have to smoke it.
African Books Take the Bus. A fascinating nomadic library bookstore traveled through Europe before taking the road to West Africa.
The day before yesterday, I was in Arles, afterwards in Tarascon, all thanks to the African Book Truck. It allows me to make some exciting encounters.
In Congo, the high demand for charcoal is a major source of deforestation. But it's not just about heating and cooking on a daily basis. Traditional fish smoking can also pose a great threat to the forest. This flourishing activity requires more and more wood. Hence, in the Congo Basin in general, and in the Republic of Congo in particular, the traditional smoking of fish is accelerating deforestation. A report in Pointe-Noire by Jean-David Miamlé and Brice Kinou.
This is a smoked herring, the famous makwala, a very popular fish in the Congo. Its production is intrinsically linked to the exploitation of the forest. The Congo Basin is 268 million hectares of forest. That is 70% of Africa's forest cover and 6% of the world's forest area. The forests of the Republic of Congo occupy just over 10% of the space, or 22,410,682 hectares, according to the Congo Basin Forest Partnership. The production of makwala has already ruined the mangroves of Pointe-Noire. Now the wood from the surrounding forests, as in Mayombe or Kwilu, are being targeted.
On 1 hectare, there can be around 700 trees, 1,000 or 250 or 500. It depends. One thing is sure, in a month, I can cut down trees on a perimeter of 3,000 meters by 100 meters.
Congolese legislation does not yet address the issue of small loggers, who are nevertheless very dynamic. Ignored by the tax services in particular, they are still evolving in the informal sector, with a simple chainsaw as their main asset.
I prefer to buy the land temporarily, because there is a period of 3 years to exploit the domain. In less than a month, during the exploitation period, you can buy another property to continue the exploitation.
This logger who says he bought a hectare of land for 1 million CFA francs, about 1,500 euros. He specifies that his approach initially consisted of obtaining a long 3-year lease from a village chief. Then, the income earned before the end of the lease allows the buyer to definitely buy one or several plots of forest and thus continue the operating cycle. Obviously, there's a close link between the quantity of fish to be smoked and the exploitation of wood. For 20 crates, the wooden content is 2 tricycles when fully loaded. We start smoking fish in the morning and finish between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Time to spread and turn the fish over the oven, it's difficult work. It all depends on the quantity and the size of the fish. When it comes to big fish, it consumes lots of wood. Civil society representatives warn against reckless exploitation of the forest.
When you go fishing, there are days when a lot of fish come out. Sometimes, when they don't sell all that fish, they have to smoke it. If there is a lot of fish to smoke, a lot of wood is used. And if we use a lot of wood, it means that we have to use a lot of wood in our forests. And if we cut a lot of wood, it becomes a danger for humanity. Because as you know, today the forest plays a very important role for our survival because the forest tries to store carbon dioxide to emit oxygen.
It is not known exactly how much wood is taken for smoking fish. In 2007, a World Bank study revealed that an inhabitant of Congo used 1 cubic meter of wood per year for a total production of 100 million cubic meters. Half of it is for firewood. With demographic pressure, demand is such that more and more wood is needed to supply the market with charcoal, firewood, or for smoking fish. During COP26, the Congo Basin states, together with the international community, adopted a set of measures called the Glasgow Pact. In particular, it recommends the abandonment of the financing of fossil fuels. A specific separate 1.5 billion agreement for Congo's forests, targeting, among other things, the need to halve the use of charcoal for cooking over the next 5 years. Solutions already exist, such as fish smoking ovens, imported or locally made.
The equipment you see is a modern and aroma injection smoker whose main fuel is gas, but the aromas can be varied. You can fit more than 300 kilos of product in the smoker, and it can smoke around more than 300 kilos of fish per hour. The smoking time is much shorter. Here, in an hour, one can already smoke and dry products. On the other hand, traditional smoking techniques, sometimes take days.
Scattered initiatives already exist to reconcile fish smoking and sustainable forest exploitation. Alongside the experimentation with improved ovens that consume less firewood, there's also the use of fish smoking ovens. All these innovations carried out by NGOs, the FAO, or independent researchers have the advantage of saving forests from destruction. The whole challenge is to popularize and finance these discoveries in order to sustainably preserve the forests of Congo in particular.
Now it's time to meet our guest, Oswald Lovat. She takes us to a fictional African country, Zamboina, where a woman named Katme is torn between tradition, the weight of marriage and social control on the one hand and emancipation on the other. It is the captivating and tragic universe of her novel, Les Aquatiques, The Aquatics in English. Oswald Lovat was born in Cameroon before traveling the world, an atypical itinerary made up of unusual choices that nourished the gestation of her first book, as she told Laurence Lestras.
Oswald Lovat, welcome. Your first novel, Les Aquatiques, is about Katme, an African woman on the path to learning and independence. Where did the idea come from? Is it something that's been close to you for a while?
Bonjour Laurence. Les Aquatiques, c'est l'histoire de Katme.
Hello, Laurence. Les Aquatiques is the story of Katme, who is a woman in her 30s and who is married to a man of influence.
Et elle a une vie conventionnelle et rangée. Et un jour, son meilleur ami...
She has 2 children and has an average, well-ordered life. Then one day, her best friend, who she considers as her brother, is arrested and put in prison. This event changes her life, and Katme begins to question herself and then questions everything she thought she had built. Her home, her life choices, her choices as a woman.
L'idée m'est venue au fil des années.
The idea came to me over the years. I believe I was inspired by the women I saw around me. Women who were bright, intelligent, and who, for the sake of social conformity, had often given up on being who they really wanted to be, and for the sake of the community, remained in the social circle, although at odds with themselves.
Le confort de la communauté, rester dans le groupe, se retrouver en porte-à-faux avec elle-même. Donc Katme est un peu l'archétype de ces femmes-là.
So Katme is the epitome of these women. The story was also based on my own experience. Ever since I was very young, I made choices that often ran against the trend.
décidé de...
I decided to refuse the diktat of the group, of the community, and find my own path.
Un chemin propre. Et Katmé, c'est pas mon histoire.
But Katmé is not my story. Katmé is not me. Let's say she's a character that I thought of like myself, but in reverse. For Katmé, it is very late in her life when she decides to reinvent herself on a path of self-determination.
You also deal with the African taboo subject of homosexuality. Can books help overcome such taboos?
Dans Les Aquatiques, le personnage, un des personnages.
In Les Aquatiques, one of the central characters is Samuel, who is a sculptor and he's gay. He will face a lot of problems since he lives in a society that condemns homosexuality.
Qui est homophobe. Déjà parce que autour de lui
it's homophobic and it's something that's condemned both socially and legally. He's attacked on two fronts. Firstly by his own relatives, often the case in African countries where homosexuality is repressed, and secondly by the law.
Comme c'est souvent le cas dans plusieurs pays africains où l'homosexualité est réprimée, et par la loi. Au-delà du thème, ce que je voulais, c'était de montrer un être.
Beyond this theme, I wanted to show someone who is in fact caught in the vice of a society that doesn't understand him, that excludes him because he's different.
Qui l'exclut parce qu'il est différent. Donc c'est vraiment la question de l'altérité.
It's really this question of otherness, of difference that interested me. Through literature, I wanted to show people who find themselves excluded and belittled simply because they don't correspond to the established norm or what we think is the norm.
Ce qu'on pense être la norme.
In Katmé's imaginary land, are you also attacking the weight of tradition and of religion and powerful politico-social controls? Is it something that undermines society on the continent, in your opinion?
Le pays dont je parle dans le roman, c'est le Zamboina. C'est un pays effectivement.
The country in the novel is Zamboina. It's a country where there's in fact tough social controls, where the political and the intimate merge.
Puisque les lois peuvent.
Since the laws interfere with people's private lives and decide what is allowed, it's a question that is interesting because these realities can be found elsewhere. Realities in Africa are imposed by society.
C'est une question qui est intéressante parce que c'est des réalités qu'on peut retrouver aussi ailleurs. C'est des réalités.
The power of the state over individuals and society. But it can be meaningful where there's poverty, especially when we see the proliferation of revival churches in Africa.
Les individus, mais elles peuvent être prégnantes dans des contextes de précarité, notamment quand on voit la prolifération des églises de réveil en Afrique, où des gens ont,
where people with very low incomes still manage to donate 10%, sometimes even more, of their salary to crooked pastors.
De leur salaire à des pasteurs véreux. Lorsqu'on voit encore le poids
It improves the influence of religion without naming a particular church on the lives of individuals and how it can authorize and then dictate a standard of life that can be very oppressive.
Et puis dicter des normes de vie qui sont parfois très oppressives. Donc oui.
So the answer to your question
is
yes.
En même temps, il y a des mouvements sociaux, il y a une société civile qui est très active.
At the same time, there are social movements. There's an active civil society. There are activists, social and political campaigners who are trying to maybe not quite reverse the trend, as for now that's difficult, but who are introducing a more balanced approach.
Et donc le roman Les Aquatiques, c'est aussi.
And the novel Les Aquatiques is also about questioning social conditioning, which the majority are resigned to or have accepted.
Par la majorité, parce que beaucoup ont démissionné.
For Katmé, your novel's heroine, there is a ray of hope, the promise of emancipation. Are you also optimistic for African women today?
Alors, Katmé, c'est une femme qui a construit sa vie sur des renoncements.
Katmé is a woman whose life has been a long series of surrenders and compromises by default, until the day she realizes that she can no longer continue like this and decides that for what she wants to become, she must give up what she has. That's the big question we ask ourselves as women, how to stop being defined by others, to be no longer defined by how men see us. The patriarchy patriarchal view.
Du mal, le regard patriarcal, et se réinventer. Et c'est
And
un chemin que
reinventing
l'on prend,
oneself.
c'est un chemin
It's the
ardu,
path
c'est un
she
chemin
follows,
ardu pour
a
toutes
difficult
les
path
femmes.
for all
C'est
women,
un
a
chemin
hard
ardu pour
path
les
for
femmes
women in
comme en
Africa.
Afrique.
But I
Et
believe
je
that
crois que
it's
c'est un
a
chemin
path
qu'elles essayent
that they are bravely
d'entreprendre
trying to
aujourd'hui
follow
avec,
today.
beaucoup de courage.
Welcome to the second part of our show. We remain in the field of African literature and its enthusiasts. Faced with competition from major Western houses, the African publishing sector is struggling to develop, and the impact of COVID-19 has not helped matters. It has been 2 years since it experienced a decline in its activity on the continent, but a French association based in Arles, in France, wants to take literature from the continent on a journey. Parole Indigo, that's its name, offers an original solution, to say the least, an African book truck or a traveling library to promote African authors and publishing. Our journalist Lionel Cauchois followed part of its journey.
The vehicle, known as a fast bus in Senegal, began its journey in the south of France and now is turning a few heads in the streets of Paris. Financed by crowdfunding and public funds, the brightly decorated library-cum-bookshop on wheels has travelled across the country to reach its destination, the Paris Plage. The aim is to offer the locals a taste of a made-in-Africa literature.
L'African Book Truck, c'est
The African Book Truck is the idea of creating a mobile bookstore library
aller à la rencontre de tout le monde.
that can meet everyone in town centres, in the city outskirts, in the countryside, everywhere, to meet people, readers, and offer space that is both a library where you can sit and read on site,
S'installer pour lire sur place, une librairie à
a
l'intérieur.
bookstore inside the truck, a place for artists.
Devenir un lieu de présence pour les artistes.
Like a well-thought-through storyline, the idea did not come overnight. In French-speaking Africa, approximately 3/4 of books come from French publishers. In France, the presence of African publishing is almost non-existent.
Il nous semble important que
It seems important to me that there should be some kind of balance. In other words, that the multiplicity of authors existing on the African continent and who bring the voice of contemporary Africa can be better and more often heard.
plus souvent entendu.
This bookstore, the selection of African authors and publishers from partner publishing houses, has several advantages. A closer look at the continent and modern stories that reflect the Africa of today. Publishing the books in the regional language makes it possible to reach a wider audience.
L'idée, c'est aussi de proposer.
The idea is to offer vibrant contemporary Africa, Africa in all its forms and diversity, since the continent is vast.
Le continent est vaste et que les cultures sont multiples, donc.
With multiple cultures, it is also an opportunity for dialogues with parents, children, so that everyone can better understand the cultures of the continent.
Mieux connaître les cultures du continent.
Ces livres-là, on ne nous les donne pas à l'école.
These books are not provided in schools.
C'est bien que des personnes.
It's good that people like them step up so we can be educated.
Qu'on puisse s'instruire.
A chance to discover African literature for readers sometimes separated from their cultural roots. One of the goals that helped convince the project's partner institutions, and a concept that excited the director of Bibliocité, which acts as the cultural coordinator to the libraries of Paris.
These are African publishing houses that are not widely distributed in France, books that are bilingual, which allow everyone to access these cultures, to share them, and for many of us around the Villette Basin to access their own maternal paternal culture. It is a crossroads of culture that we find very important and very enriching.
Meeting the challenge faced by African authors and publishers to export their work beyond their own borders, the Nomadic Bookstore uses local distribution and communication to help spread the word about the continent's authors, a method that invites the public to share in the joys of reading and a rich cultural diversity.
Le livre physique est quand même irremplaçable.
Contact with a real book is still irreplaceable. First of all, because it becomes a place for dialogue and cultural exchange.
Le plaisir de lire les parents avec leurs enfants.
The pleasure of reading with children and parents around the same book is a pleasure that cannot be compared.
Un plaisir qui n'est pas comparable.
Raconte un conte.
Beyond discovering new cultures, the travelling library uses workshops, meetings and book fairs to offer visitors the opportunity to learn about the wealth of modern African creativity, a sounding board for these African authors. Thanks to the African Book Truck, I work in different places. The day before yesterday, I was in Arles, afterwards in Tarascon. All thanks to the African Book Truck. It allows me to make some exciting encounters. The African Book Truck has met with success at institutions and festivals. It will continue to travel through France and Europe for another 3 years, then return to West Africa, where an Ivorian publishing house will take over and continue promoting African authors. A homecoming for the mobile ambassador of African publishing and its many stories, and a children's novel about the adventures of the African Book Truck by author-illustrator Christian Epagna is soon expected to be rolling off the presses.
Let's now get back to Oswald Lewat for the second part of her interview. She tells us how she became a writer, how she sees the effervescence of contemporary African literature, and why this desire for literature from the continent must be encouraged. Let's listen to her.
Oswalde Lewat, you were born in Cameroon. You studied in Cameroon and France, straddling two cultures, two countries that maintain a close but complex relationship. Is it hard for you?
J'ai grandi au Cameroun.
I grew up in Cameroon. Much later, I was able to settle in France.
J'ai vécu avant ça au Canada et dans d'autres pays africains.
Before that, I lived in Canada and in other African countries. It's a bit of a cliché, but I feel enriched by my differences.
Quand je suis en France,
it might seem banal, but it's true. When I'm in France, I'm a black, racialized woman. And to others, I can seem different, certainly.
Je peux être différente, effectivement. Quand je suis en Afrique aussi,
when I'm in Africa, I can also be different because maybe my accent is different to the locals. Maybe my life choices or tastes, or a whole part of my culture differs from the local people. Having said that,
qui est moins en résonance avec les personnes qui vivent sur place, et en même temps, c'est des différences.
It's the differences that have enriched me enormously, that have opened my eyes to the world, that have allowed me to understand that others are really us.
L'autre, c'est nous. Donc c'est un vrai enrichissement. C'est vraiment un vrai
enrichissement. It's an enriching process that has its difficulties as there are times.
Il y a des situations où je me suis demandé si je n'étais
pas
assez
ceci. If I wasn't enough of this or of that, but that's all part of life.
L'épaisseur d'une vie.
You began writing at 14. How did you start, and what's your writing routine today?
Alors j'ai voulu écrire très jeune. J'avais lu à 12 ans Cyrano de Bergerac, ça a été mon choix.
I've wanted to write since I was very young. I read Cyrano de Bergerac when I was 12 and something in me clicked and I decided to become a writer. At 14 I wrote a first novel. I was not very good. I've always written not just novels but poems too. I wrote non-fictional for my documentaries. I wrote short screenplays and short stories. Z'Aquatique, which is my first novel, took a long time coming.
Z'Aquatique est mon premier roman, a été long, et en réalité pour moi écrire c'est une lutte quotidienne, mais en même temps,
to be honest, I find writing a daily struggle, but I know when I write I'm where I have to be. Without writing, my life would be meaningless.
Ça a l'air emphatique de dire ça, mais c'est absolument vrai.
That sounds dramatic, but it's absolutely true. I have a routine. I try to write every day in the morning when I wake up. I don't put it off because I can procrastinate a lot. I write on my computer, I write on my phone, I write on scraps of paper. I write all the time by any means. I always have a sheet of paper handy. I jot down ideas all the time, and then despite all this I try to have some discipline, without which I think writing is actually impossible.
Sans laquelle je pense le travail d'écriture n'est pas possible.
What sort of reception did your book have in Africa, and who are your readers?
Le roman est disponible dans certains pays.
The book is available in some African countries, unfortunately not in all countries. In the countries where it's been read, I've had positive feedback from the most part, and some less positive, since I think some people might have been uncomfortable with the subjects that are covered in the book. The question of female emancipation, the question of homosexuality and power gains.
L'émancipation féminine, la question de l'homosexualité et puis des jeux de pouvoir. Donc le Zamboana, c'est un
Zamboana is an imaginary country.
Miroir à plusieurs pays du continent africain et ça peut.
But it also mirrors several countries on the African continent, and that can be embarrassing. Overall, I'd say that the novel was very well received. It will be more widely distributed at the end of the year thanks to publishers Édition Nimba in Côte d'Ivoire, who will issue a less expensive version for the African public, since now it's being sold at a European price on the African continent.
Il est vendu à un prix européen sur le continent africain.
To pick up on your comments, how do you see the future of literature on the continent, bearing in mind the economic costs of publishing, which can discourage writers from the diaspora?
Aujourd'hui, en Afrique, le nombre d'écrivains...
Today, the number of writers, of authors, is increasing rapidly in Africa.
Il y a de plus en plus de gens qui écrivent.
More and more people are writing and being published. African authors shine in the literary universe and shone particularly brightly last year, in 2021, on the African continent itself.
Un peu partout, notamment l'année dernière, en 2021. Sur le continent africain, ça reste compliqué.
It's complicated though, since the publishing houses receive little financial support from the state. For publishing houses, booksellers, libraries, the whole book economy is very weak everywhere.
Une économie qui est très fragile partout. C'est un secteur qui devrait bénéficier d'un.
This is a sector that could benefit from significant support from countries in Africa, but remains very fragile.
Il reste encore très fragile, donc. Il y a quand même des volontés très fortes, et ça c'est extraordinaire.
There's still some very determined people out there, and it's extraordinary to see those who manage to publish books, sometimes under difficult conditions, who believe in books and who believe literature can contribute to broadening imaginations, even reinventing society.
Réinventer une société, même si c'est très prétentieux de dire ça.
It might be pretentious to say, but when you know, as Sartre wrote in Nausea, his book was not much help to a starving child. But even if literature no longer has the prestige it had on the African continent, it remains a very important vehicle for self-awareness or reinventing oneself. It is for me, anyway.
D'éveil, en tout cas, ça l'a été pour moi.
What do you think of the current wave of literature in Africa and the new writers, groups of writers and writers' clubs emerging on the continent?
Je pense que depuis ce qui est considéré comme le premier roman africain...
I think that since the first recognized African novel by Thomas Mafolo from Southern Africa in 1907, the continent's literature has continued to flood libraries, bookstores and imaginations, whether in Africa or abroad. There's still work, important work to be done.
Il y a encore du travail à faire, il y a un travail important.
But there is a pool of important writers.
Il y a un vrai désir de littérature.
There's a real desire for literature, and this must be helped along, must be supported by the state, by the public authorities, since the economy of books is fragile.
Des livres, l'Union africaine a créé son premier Grand Prix de littérature.
The African Union's first Grand Prix for literature was awarded to Les Aquatiques. I'm delighted to say, at the same time, beyond the actual prize itself, the Grand Prix must be a message for the countries of the African Union that literature is a sector that has to thrive, since it's an essential part of education.
Qu'il fait partie des moyens d'éducation, qu'il permet à la culture
and allows culture to be shared. Above all, it awakens the imagination of Africa's youth. It is important that beyond the prize, they should go, individual countries at the local level, they should go much further. They should realize that literature is not just an accessory.
N'est pas juste un accessoire. On l'a vu pendant le confinement.
We saw it during the confinement. We remembered how vital it was to be able to read and to be able to visit other worlds through a text.
À travers un texte.
That's it. Initiative Africa is over for today. You can, of course, find Oswald Levat's interview and the replay of our programs on our news website, africaonair.com. And, of course, you can also find us on all our social media channels. Feel free to share, like, and comment using the hashtag Initiative Africa. And don't forget, next week, same time, same channel, I will see you again with a new edition of Business Africa. Have a great week and goodbye.
Thanks for joining us on Nigeria Today. I am Olamide Ario. Welcome. President Bola Tinubu has congratulated Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke on his re-election, describing the victory as a fitting assurance that democracy will continue to flourish, irrespective of their political choices during the election. President Tinubu also commended the other contestants for the courage and discipline they displayed throughout the electoral process, saying their participation further enriched Nigeria's democratic culture. The president further commended the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and security agencies for conducting what he described as a peaceful and transparent election that produced a clear winner. Osun State